it is a lack of education or a lack of knowing what their vote means and what it will result in. Just as you said, there isn't any sort of education as in terms of what certain parties stand for, and at the last minute for year 13s you're just given a huge list and you're expected to go through it. And so it's just finding the different avenues that youth will resonate with and connect with, and I guess that comes with having youth rangatira, youth examples and leaders that will lead them and sort of guide them and tell them, educate them about the voting process. And I feel like the only place that we are sort of taught about democracy is in history, where you look at other countries, you look everywhere but New Zealand, and that is changing with the new curriculum change, and it's something that on Rito o Te Paremata we're working to make more accessible resources and posters and infographics for classrooms. We have a list of all the kura kaupapa and schools in New Zealand, which we've sent it all to, so we're just in the midst of publicising everything and getting them on posters. Just it's a matter of making sure that all youth can access it and say voting is possible, and that each of our votes matters, and it matters in everything, even in our regional sort of council elections. If you want to make change in your community, it starts with your vote, with making sure you secure and you trust your leaders. That's the other big thing, trust, because on average most rangatahi in New Zealand don't know where to vote or how to vote. We don't trust the leaders who are elected and vote for lead our country. And so that's something I guess to unpack at another time, but it's just a matter of trust, education, and making sure that we can and we know who we're voting for.
Awesome, thanks Lena.
And our Maori and of the Tamil culture.
Thanks, Lena. Yeah, I think what you've said in regards to council providing more grants is super relevant, and also I guess a plug back to the Ministry of Ethnic Communities. This morning they provide grants, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, for community organisations like ours, and so that's I guess one step. And also maybe a quick plug, I'm on the membership board of Multi-Ethnic Young Leaders New Zealand, so it's for young rangatahi between the ages of 18 and 30 to get involved. So if you guys don't know about it already and want to join up, or if there are any other young people in the room who are interested, that's a really great first step towards fostering race unity in our country. So that's another way to get involved, because I think that's also really important as well. I'll go to you, Arti.
I think both the Maori and the Tamil cultures are so strong, like alone, but together how much stronger could it be? We could literally push through a lot of the barriers that we still have in the country today with that unity. But to become united, we need to learn about each other's cultures as well. So I think even just motivating each other or other youth to share their perspectives and to willingly ask questions about their cultures as well, and learn more from everyone else, I think we can actually make big differences in our country.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I mean, you three already give me big hopes for the future. I think our rangatahi have so much potential and power to create some meaningful social change in our communities. There are also lots of little kiddies in the room that I see, and you're literally the future of our country, and I see so much potential and power in you, all you little ones. So yeah. Okay, we might move on to maybe those kind of themes of,
I think especially youth, we can come together, and this today is showing that we can come together and sort of change our uniform policies in schools and make sure that all items such as hijabs and lovers, they're available to all, and that students wearing taonga and any form, earrings or pounamu on their neck, that it should be encouraged and welcomed in schools, and their identity should be celebrated openly and not when it is convenient for others, which is something that I'm working towards with other youth that are like. To overcome that focus that all our schools have, but also that our youth, even councils now, they should be giving grants to youth to in the world, and it's really interesting, and I love learning about other cultures. And to preserve a language, you cannot learn about it in isolation. It's in unification. It's understanding everything, all the parts of it, different individuals' experiences, and learning about their identities and how they've overcome certain crises and certain and just overcoming all their struggles and making sure that their culture is shown and known to other people in New Zealand. So yeah, the big thing is just respect and learning of the language, not in isolation. And especially in schools, if someone, I have friends that have they have Maori names. If someone does say their name wrong, you don't say you're wrong. It's about approaching them with respect and understanding that of course they won't know how to pronounce it straight away correctly. So it's about teaching them about the pronunciation, and that comes with preserving the language.
So thanks, Lena. Arti.
This brings me to what we heard in one of the earlier panel sessions. Someone said it takes one generation to lose our language, but 3 to bring it back. And that hit me, because that was like a big realization how, honestly, like they said, if we don't speak our language, we are going to lose it. And we've kept this language for years and years, like generations, Tamil especially. It's a very powerful language. And I think being able to speak that will connect us to our cultural identity in like more than one way, like Lena said. So I think in order to like not lose it, we must speak it, like they said. But to do so, I find myself that I have a lot of Tamil friends in the Tamil community, but I don't really speak to them in Tamil. I speak to them in English as well. But we all know how to speak Tamil, so I think we should like break that barrier. What Madhusha said was correct. I've realized that a lot of other people, like even different Indian communities, like Gujaratis as well, they just communicate in their language freely. But Tamil people, I think maybe it is like the parents or how they've grown up in their households, but people...
Makes me really proud to be up here in front of you in Vietnam as well. Cool, so I was going to sidetrack to social media, but I think we'll get to that a little bit later, because I think that'll be really interesting. I guess another one that I wanted to touch on is in terms of language and culture, which we have briefly discussed in our sessions today, but I wanted to discuss it, I guess, with more of a youth kind of perspective. So I personally can speak and understand Tamil, but I can't read or write it. And the only reason I think that I can speak Tamil is because my grandmother lived with us my whole entire life until she passed away last year. So in a way, I was almost forced to speak Tamil because she couldn't interact in English, which now looking back was an amazing, amazing opportunity to understand more about our language and our culture. But I also have this very inherent fear that my children and my grandchildren, if not for my parents, will not be able to have the same understanding of the language.
I was thinking about this actually for a while, and I realized there is not one moment that I'm not proud to be Tamil. I've realized the strong community that we have, the Tamil community itself, makes me proud of being Tamil. It's like the community is what empowers our entire identity as well. And seeing everyone here today itself makes me feel privileged that there are people who realize how powerful a culture is, how powerful our legacies are, our histories are, and our heritage. And I feel like I'm constantly proud to be Tamil, so it's hard to pinpoint a particular moment.
That's fair enough, and that's actually great to hear that all of you are so embracing.
One very specific thing that happened, I'm linking it back to social media. It was in 2020 during the lockdowns, the COVID lockdowns, so everyone was at home. In Canada, they were looking at passing a bill, 104, to have an education week for Tamil genocide. And so this was the Tamil genocide that happened in Sri Lanka in 2009. And because there's a massive Sri Lankan Tamil population in Canada, all the Canadian youth members started posting on Instagram with a hashtag saying, "I am Tamil and genocide is part of my identity." And so they thought this would stop just in Canada, but it went worldwide. People from New Zealand were posting with this hashtag, people from the UK, people like from all around the world. And I think that one tiny hashtag, it just got the whole of the Tamil youth from around the world so close, so like united, and they were standing up for something they wanted to happen. So it wasn't just like something trivial on social media, that what a lot of the older people think social media is, right? But it was, they used what they had at the time when everyone was in their houses, and they made the most of it to make a change. And this was done by the Tamil youth, which that made me so proud. Yeah.
That's awesome. Lina?
I think for me, any moment where you're standing with a group of people, especially at events such as Manu Korero, and you just stand and sing a waiata, even something as simple as Tūtere Mai Ngā Iwi, where its message is so simple that everything is better, where we are united as one and we work together to achieve a collective goal, which at the end of the day is unification of all our cultures. But more specifically, it's less of a moment that I was proud to be Maori because I was only 4, but it has definitely influenced sort of my actions and who I am today. At kindy, my first hongi, I was called to the front of the class. This is a bunch of 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and so was another boy, and this boy's nose was dripping with snot. He would not stop wiping at his snotty nose, and I was supposed to touch his nose. I was not having a bar of it. Regardless, he keeps sniffing and wiping his nose, and on his shirt, his collar's all wet. Matua Rawiri, he told us to put our hands on each other's shoulders, and we leaned forward until our heads and shoulders met, and then our noses had to touch. I was cringing, going, oh, his snot's on my nose. And then eventually when we sat back down on the mat, I was still quite upset that this boy's snot was now on my face. But it wasn't until we sat back down and we saw Matua. He wasn't fussed about any of the snot, about my discomfort. He was very still. There was a stillness to his body and face, one of peace and content. And whilst the words Matua used to describe the significance of a hongi hadn't really resonated with us as 4-year-olds, this is at kindy, his ahua had. The fact that he was still, he was peaceful, he was at content with that interaction showed us how important a hongi embrace is. When we come together as equals, our eyes are next to each other and we breathe and we share the same air, forming a connection of respect and of mana, acknowledging the other person. And that has stuck with me, and there are photos of it in my kindy book, and I've shown it before and I've spoken about it. But the fact alone, we don't need to use our words all the time to show our tamariki the potential they can reach when they're older. We just need to be there. We just need to show them the stillness and the calmness and the respect and mana we hold as individuals, and we acknowledge and share our whakapapa and share our language and our culture.
Thank you, Lena. That was really insightful. Really powerful. You said some really powerful things that I think a lot of people will take away from it, and I think a lot of people in this room can probably also resonate with what you said in regards to like our census forms, where you have to tick an ethnicity box. You know, it only says Indian, but how many different types of Indian is there? There's, you know, Punjabi, Malayalam, Tamil, like there's so many different types, but we're kind of confined to one type of Indian, which also means that we are neglected in terms of, you know, a lot of government funding and things like that for specific our Tamil community. So I think that's something that's really important and that you touched on that we definitely need to change. And if I'm not wrong, there was a petition I think started from one of our Tamil changams that kind of addressed this issue about our census forms and getting it changed. So thanks for bringing that up. Arti, let's move to you.
I grew up in Finland. I went to a school where it was predominantly white. I was the only kid in my school who was Indian or of like the Desi community. But I didn't really know how to fit in. Like I just knew about the Finnish culture. There was no one really bringing out like the Indian, the Tamil culture anywhere there. So as a 5-year-old kid in like first grade, I felt a little bit lost. But I just thought, oh, that's just how it is. Like that's the right way. Maybe what I'm doing is too different, so maybe I shouldn't bring it out really. And so I kind of like hid that side of myself, and I never really noticed I was doing it. I'd just go with whatever they were doing, and I'd kind of changed myself, I guess, to fit in. But at that age, you don't really know what you're doing, and you kind of just go with the flow. But then as I was growing up, I started to realize that the differences is made, like, it was what my culture has made me. So maybe I should like stop bringing it, like putting it down and start bringing it out. But I wasn't too sure how. But as we moved to New Zealand, I found myself surrounded by more people that I could relate to as well, like Melisha said, and it was way easier that way. But it was like I did struggle with doing so. Like people do constantly mispronounce your name. I get called Arthi at school. But I realized that, and like at one age, I was introducing myself to like people who I thought, I just assumed, oh, they won't be able to pronounce my name, so I'd pronounce my name wrong. And I'd say, hello, nice to meet you, I'm Arthi. But then I think now, as I have grown to learn more about my culture, to know who I am, my Tamil identity, I've stopped doing that. I introduce myself as Arthi, and if they say my name wrong, I will correct them, but it's okay. It's a huge process. It's not going to like change in 1 second. But I think in that way, I have faced challenges with my like who I am, my Tamil identity, and how to like accept like the differences in our community is what makes it great. But I think it's a work in progress. Everyone's got to move through that. So
Definitely. Oh, thank you, Arthi. I think myself and a lot of people could resonate with what you said in terms of pronunciation of your name. Your name carries like so much mana, and also whakapapa, especially like your last name in our Tamil community, right? That carries a lot of whakapapa, and it's something that you should be really proud of. And much like you, I've gotten a lot better at correcting people when they say my name wrong. I used to be embarrassed or wait until it's too late to correct them and say, no, it's actually Maya. But I've definitely gotten a lot better at doing it. And I think that's really important for everyone else to do as well, because yeah, like I said, your name carries so much. It's so much more than just your name. It carries generations of ancestry and that mana. So yeah, that's really important. I'm glad you're doing that. Cool. So Disha, you quickly touched on this, I guess, when we were talking about challenges. You also talked about how you've become very proud to be a Tamil Kiwi. So why don't we move to some specific moments or experiences from each of you that have made you, kind of a moment that made you particularly proud of your Tamil or Maori heritage. Could you share some experiences?
Especially during intermediate. I think when I was a lot younger, I was in a primary school and was living in an area where I was fully surrounded by Tamil people. So that was like fine for me. I felt really comfortable. And then once I made the big move to an intermediate where I knew absolutely no one, I was kind of lost, and then I ended up feeling ashamed to be Tamil at a point, but that's all I knew, because I speak Tamil at home, I eat Tamil food, I watch Tamil movies and listen to Tamil songs. So like it felt like I was living two separate lives, one at school, one at home, and then it became really jarring. And then it was more so in high school where I started interacting with people that have gone through the same experiences, and also becoming very invested in the Tamil identity itself, like through social media, when influencers from Canada and UK started posting a lot about being Tamil and talking about the Tamil struggles, and especially the Sri Lankan Tamil struggles. It made me connect to my culture a lot more, especially, and I started feeling like included, it was like, I feel like social media really helped me navigate my identity. And so it was about in year 12, I also participated in the Race Unity Speech Awards, and that's when I was mapping out my ideas on a piece of paper and writing everything down. Like, I felt so proud to be Tamil. I felt so incredibly proud, and that I overcame that identity crisis, and now I truly call myself a proud Tamil Kiwi and stand by it. So yeah.
That's awesome. I think it's really admirable as well, yeah. And I think it's interesting that you touch on that social media point. Maybe we'll get back to that later, because it's very, very topical. Lena, should we to you?
So I'm proudly Maori, of descent from Ngāpuhi and Tainui tribes, iwi, and so part of sort of navigating my identity and sort of struggles that I've encountered is whether me constantly questioning, am I Māori enough to say I'm Māori? Quite often, I think if I weren't wearing these earrings, some people in this room and people in my family, just peers at school, wouldn't acknowledge or respect me as Māori if I weren't wearing something quite clear, we're pounamu, and that's something that I've struggled with, especially with entering the Ngā Manu Kōrero Speech Awards. You're surrounded by local kura kaupapa, and they're fluent in te reo Māori, and you're surrounded with te ao Māori in all its forms. And my first year in year 11, I was quite shocked. I was quite, I need to learn more about my culture, because I felt at the time that I really wasn't Māori enough to say that I was Māori and to compete. And some kids would ask, they're like, oh, this speech competition is only for Māori. What was your exception? That was quite jarring for me. It says, and so since year 11, each year I've worked harder to learn more about my culture and to learn more about my language and connecting to my whakapapa and my ancestry. And sort of one more part of sort of navigating who I am as Māori and as a rangatahi that's growing to become a leader of our country and ultimately our world, is in our tests, our NCEA exams and tests and sheets given from healthcare professionals. And when we sign up for sports teams, we can only tick one box for our ethnicity. And it is slowly changing, but let's be honest, it's not fast enough. And so tamariki and rangatahi like ourselves, we're constantly faced with identity crisis on a formal piece of paper given by our country's leaders. Do you identify as Maori, Tamil, Indian? Do you identify as Pacifico, New Zealand, European? And we can only tick one. If I tick Maori, I deny my mum and her ancestry as New Zealand European. If I tick New Zealand European, I deny my dad and his whakapapa. And that's something no rangatahi should go through, and we should learn about our whole identity as a whole. And as I've overcome it over the years, and how I hope to continue to learn about my identity and spread my whakapapa and my language and connecting with my reo. And the language is ki te kotahi te kākaho, ka whati ki te kāpoia e kore whati. If there is but one toi stem, it will break. If I acknowledge just one part of myself, I will not make it through this world. It is about acknowledging all of who you are, all of your being, and integrating your different experiences and perspectives. And that comes with events like this, through diverse thought. Events such as this foster diverse thought, and from that it triggers unified action. And it is important to recognise that unity doesn't mean we are all the same. It means we stand united in our differences, whilst acknowledging that at a basic human level we are the same. If I prick you, you will bleed just as I will. If I tickle you, you will laugh just as I will. That it's acknowledging that at the end of the day, amidst our cultures and diversities which we celebrate, we are human. Kia ora. To attend an Ivy League university in the US, or to attend Oxford and Cambridge in the UK through Crimson Education. And so I'm really passionate in advocacy space, and I love being an example for our tamariki to follow and reach their full potential in whatever that may be. Kia ora.
That's awesome. As you've probably heard, we have some very highly accomplished young ladies before me today. So I'm very excited to get into these questions and see what they have to say. So I guess something I touched on is that I was born here, and like all of you, I guess, except for you right out there. Yeah, so born here. So we're inherently Kiwis, but also we embrace our very Indian, very Tamil heritage. But in doing that, I think there are a lot of challenges that we have to overcome along the way. So the first question that I wanted to ask was if you could share some experiences or challenges that you've faced while navigating either your Tamil or your Maori identities, and how you've overcome them. Should we start with you, Madhusha, in the middle?
So I am a first generation. So my parents migrated here in the 90s as refugees from Sri Lanka. And so
Student at Victoria University of Wellington. I'm studying computer science and artificial intelligence, and I'm minoring in economics. I am very passionate about what the youth can bring to our community. I've worked very hard, I've volunteered in many places to really foster what the youth has within, what everyone has within themselves, and to bring out their talents as well and make them feel heard. I love to share my perspective in many different ways, and I'm excited to be here. This is my first panel ever, and so I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm glad to be here.
Thanks, Aarti. And we just want to say, don't be nervous. We're going to make this really conversational, and I think that's really important as well to create dialogue. So it's okay. Don't be nervous. Madhusha?
Kia ora. My name is Madhusha Paranidharan. I'm from Te Whanganui Atara, and I'm also a proud Tamil Kiwi, like Myra. I was born in Wellington, Lower Hutt, and I've been there my whole life, and I currently study at Vic Uni, studying a Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in Finance and Information Systems. But besides that, I love to be involved and get involved in many Tamil events, all the Tamil events. I think that's one thing I'm really passionate about, and I think Tamil voices should be heard everywhere, and it needs to start from us at such a young age. We need to give people the confidence that hopefully if I'm speaking up here, that these little kids one day will be up here speaking just like us, and even better, doing things better than us. So yeah, that's what motivates me, and I'm excited for the panel discussion today.
Okay, kia ora everyone. My name's Lena Ormsby. I'm 17 years old, head girl of Karamu High School in Hastings. I'm part of Rito Oti Paramata, which is a youth parliament reference group. So I love working amongst those frameworks and being able to change and hear youth perspective and bring it into those forums. I'm Hawke's Bay's
Marae for your aroha and manakitanga and for having us here today, and to the Tamil Association for organising this event. I had a lovely introduction, so I won't talk too much about myself, so I can let these lovely wahine next to me introduce themselves and we can get into the discussion. But I'm a proud Tamil Kiwi, born here in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, but I was brought up in Wellington. I graduated with my conjoint Bachelor of Laws and Bachelor of Commerce this year, and I'm working as an associate at PwC Legal. Apart from that, in my spare time, I'm involved in the not-for-profit and social justice space, and through various voluntary roles in the United Nations Association of New Zealand, Multi-Ethnic Young Leaders New Zealand, our Asian Law Students Association, UN Women, and also my local community trust board. But aside from that, I'm really passionate about uplifting our minority voices, and in particular our ethnic communities and also women as well. And I'm very excited about this panel because there's a lot of young little people in the room, and our tamariki, our rangatahi are the future of our country, and they're leaders of not only today but only tomorrow. So I think we have an obligation to ensure that they're uplifted so we can continue what we're doing for our children and our grandchildren as well. So enough about me. I'll let these lovely ladies introduce themselves one by one, and then we can get into this discussion. I'm hoping that you'll be left inspired and engaged, educated and empowered to create some change in our respective communities. So I'll pass it to Aarti to introduce herself first.
Kia ora everyone, I'm Aarti Khan.
Everyone, a big round of applause for Allegro and a fantastic rendition. Just as the team are putting that aside, we will be starting to make our way to the third panel session today. And this is a very powerful one. It will be focusing on young people. And that's very critical because they are our future.
தேடி தழுவ திட்டமிட்ட கண்மணிகளே நெஞ்சை கொலுசு நெஞ்சை தேடியதோ
வீரவாண்டி கோட்டையிலே மின்னல் அடிக்கும் வேளையிலே காடும் மலையில் தூங்கும் போது கொலுசு சத்தம் மனசை திருடியதோ
நீ மறுபடியும் வந்தாய் விழித்திருந்ததும் மறுபடி கனவுகள் வருமா வருமா விழித்திரக்கையில் கனவில துரத்தது நிஜமா நிஜமா சூரியனே
நான் பேசாத மௌனம் எல்லாம் உன் கண்கள் பேசும் உன்னை காணாத நேரம் என்னை கடிகாரம் கேட்கும் மனதேது தூரம் மலை போலவே மனதோடு நீதான் நுழைந்தாயே முதல் பெண்ணாயே நானே எனக்குள்ளானே இனி நீயும் நானும் ஒன்றாய் சேர்ந்தால் காதல் இரண்டு எழுத்து பெண்ணின் விரல் நிலவாய் முளைத்து பெண்ணின் விழிகள் இசை கேட்டு மலரே தலையாட்டு மலரே மொழி போல மனதில் பாட்டு இனி நீயும் நானும் ஒன்றாய் சேர்ந்தால் காதல் இரண்டு எழுத்து பெண்ணின் விதையில் நிலவாய் முளைத்தே பெண்ணின் விழியில் என்னையே தொலைத்தே எட்டிடும் வானம் தொட்டு வீரம் போற்ற வாசமில்லை முட்டிடும் ஆசை எல்லாம் விதைக்க வாசமில்லை கட்டிடும் காலை சீரும் வீரமேற்ற வாசமில்லை முட்டிடும் மேல சத்தம் இடிக்க வாசமில்லை தமிழே குறிஞ்சி முல்லை மருதம் நெய்தல் பாலை பாடும் பைந்தமிழே
நடையும் நாடகமாகும் நற்றமிழே அசையும் சீரும் இலக்கணமாகும் தலைகளும் எல்லா தனித்தமிழே
நூலெடுத்து 10 பாட்டு நாம் படித்து
தமிழ் ஆடினாரோ பிள்ளை தமிழ் பாடினாரோ
வள்ளுவனின் குரல் பாடி அவை சொன்ன ஆத்திச்சூடி யாரும் ஊரே யாவரும் கேளே கூறும் தமிழ் எங்கள் நாடி கண்ணாமூச்சி வச்ச குதிரை உண்டிக்கோடு
சிட்டாங்கல்லு பல்லாங்குழி ஆட்டமெல்லாம் போட்டோம் பாரு
கம்பன் கூடு கேழ்வரகு குதிரவாடி சோழச்சோறு
சீனி கருப்பட்டி பதனி சாறு முறுக்கு தோய்ந்த உடம்ப பாரு
வாழ்க்கும்
And before we kick off with our panel sessions and all of that, we have a fantastic band with us all the way from Wellington. So with us today on stage you have Alegal, the Musical Waves. They are a New Zealand-based eclectic music band, a harmonious celebration of diversity through music. The band, comprising of talented members Ravi Kiran Subramanian, Dharan Ravindran, Ananya Dharmarajan and Deepika Sundar on vocals, along with Arvind. Big round of applause first. Along with Arvind Nedumaran on flute, keyboard and track arrangements, weaves a rich tapestry of Tamil and Indian melodies. With a resolute vision, they endeavour to promote the vibrant tapestry of Tamil and Indian music among the people of New Zealand. Embracing their immigrant country's multicultural essence, Alegal actively fosters cultural collaborations. Through soul-stirring performances, the band aims to resonate with diverse audiences, bridging gaps and forming lasting connections, uniting hearts through the universal language of music. So everyone, a big round of applause for Alegal.
Check 1, 2, 3, 1. Check, check, check. Check.
Because I think, as much as when parents actually encourage you to take on the roles, sometimes I think they can actually be limiting.
I think I have to agree with what Anamika was.
My family, aren't we all? Yeah? We're the products of our whānau, our family. And as a trailblazer, well, if I'm a trailblazer, if I'm a community leader, if I'm a marikura, if I get called back home up in Taitokaro on a clear day, someone of substance, then I have my whānau to thank. Because without my mum and dad and my ancestors behind me, I wouldn't be the person I am today. What do you reckon? Kawhai, yeah? Yeah? Totally. Mum? Yeah, we would be without our mothers, woman. Well, we would be without our dads for that matter as well. Our first role models are our parents, aren't they? And then our next role models are our grandparents. And if our family units are tight, it's through them that we learn who we are. We learn about our culture, our identities, our sense of place and sense of belonging. And as I think about that sense of belonging as a Māori woman, I look out across here and I go, how much courage do all of you wahine have to actually make Aotearoa, New Zealand, your home? That takes so much courage. Because you know what? I couldn't do it. I tried. When I was working for for New Zealand Tourism, I did a lot of travelling. In fact, I have a nice story about being in Mumbai to set up with New Zealand Trade Enterprise New Zealand Tourism, our tourism office there back in whenever it was, dim dark ages, late 1990s. But I tried to live away from home, but I got muki. You know me? kind of missed home. I missed home for our kai, for our son, our people, and just being able to hear, kia ora, g'day, how's it going? Bro, what are you up to? Cha. Just those really familiar colloquialisms, and I'm sure many of you, though some of you I know, maybe first generation Aotearoa, is that you learn all those colloquialisms, and when you're away, you miss them, and food, kai is the best thing. And I used to find myself when I travel, the first thing I would do was look for people that I could connect with. So important to connect. And a bit like when I was in boarding school, it was all the Pacific Islanders, the Indians, the Tongans, our Korean, our Japanese girls. We all hung out together. Why? Because we always had the best kai, the best food. And it was always interesting watching our Pākehā non-Māori who would always say, can we have some of that? We said, sure. So we used to always make sure. And it used to break down our barriers, and that happens all around the world. If I may, for me this is a funny story, but it may not be for you. But I share this because it's about sometimes our levels of ethnicity and what people presume. And I find this story that I'm about to share for me, that though we may be of different cultures, sometimes I look across and I reckon you guys are all my whānau anyway, because we all look alike. Isn't that terrible? But anyway, I was in Mumbai, standing on the station, on platform station to board with my colleagues, and we were on our way up to Rajasthan. And I was standing there, and this beautiful Indian gentleman was standing about as far as where that stand there. He kept on looking at me, and I didn't know why. In those days, my hair was very dark and long, and I've always been one for having my pashminas around me to keep me warm. Finally, this gentleman moved closer to me, and he said, excuse me, where are you from? And I said to him, from Aotearoa, New Zealand. And he said, no, where are you from? And I said to him, Aotearoa. I said this 3 times. Finally, his son came close to me and said, my father thinks you're from here. And I said, no, I'm not, I'm from Aotearoa. His father then says, please, do not deny your heritage. And I thought that was really interesting. Anyway, his name was Prakesh. And Prakesh was one of our... he eventually came here to New Zealand in tourism days. He had Prakesh Travel, very large in travelling of religious groups all around the country. And it was him. And he was standing on the platform that day. And he came to New Zealand to meet us. And do you know what? Same thing happened to him when he came here to New Zealand. Everyone mistook him as the kaumātua. And he had to say to them, no, I'm the visitor. So what does that say? It says to me that actually we have more in common than we think. Yeah? We have more similarities than we think. But it's in our differences that we get our greatest innovation. It's about how you and I connect together. It's about how you and I as people work to get, this is your statement, the very best out of each other. So sometimes we think there are barriers, but in actual fact they're not. And so today I'm delighted to be here amongst you. One, because I can smell the kai. Puku's getting hungry. But also too, just to make that connection. Over the years I have been in Indian communities, but not a lot. And to hear today from Mahesh to say, from 35,000 back in the 80s to now 250,000, I go, wow, there must be something about Aotearoa New Zealand that has made you comfortable to be here and to be with us and to be with Māori and to be in this space. So I say, tēnā koe te whānau, it's really nice to see you. So kia ora.
Tēnā koe, thank you so much. I think let's just have a conversation about this. I don't know how much time we've got. We may actually have about 20 minutes or only 10 minutes. Okay, very quick 10 minutes. One of the themes that ran across, I think, a lot of the speeches was actually family as well, how they influence your moms, your dads. I want to actually flip that. Do our families and our culture become become a bit of a hindrance when it actually comes to leadership, because trailblazing can actually be, I mean, they all support us, but I think there comes a moment where there can actually be a hindrance. Think of it that way. Shall we actually go to the person who actually spoke the shortest to you? Take as much as you like.
I would say yes and no. My mom, on one hand, she was the person who was pushing me through breaking these barriers and doing new things and accomplishing things that she couldn't. My dad also was in that space to an extent, but it's the extended family that I talk about, who were quite a bit of a hindrance. In a way, they would come and advise my parents to not let me participate in sports, to not do that, and I would believe, their ignorance level in terms of how training impacts a woman's body was what was their major concern. They got this feeling that it might kind of impart a bit of masculinity in me. And they were worried about my marriage, they were worried about my suitable partner, they were worried about a lot of aspects that I wouldn't even think of at a tender age of 12. And so, yes, at the same time, I had what we call these days helicopter parenting. So my parent, I think we come from the same area, if I'm not wrong. So we had similar sort of nourishment from, in terms of parenting style would have been similar. So they were every step of the way telling you what to do, but you still had the freedom to say no, but still do what they had asked you to do. So it's that sort of thing. But at the same time, what they also did was once they realized that we kind of have the wings to fly away, they just stopped doing that to me. They let me go at the age of 19 to another place called Bangalore, where I took on to my senior education, my post-graduation, and then they cut the ties as is, like on a day where they were there every step of my way, and all of a sudden they were nowhere to be seen. So this is sort of approach they took, and this kind of helped me tune myself into what I wanted to become. So from 21 to 25, and that's when I believe, as per science, I believe your brain becomes an adult, your white matter into brain matter, and then yes, by 25 I was ready. I had a good base as to what a good ethics is, as to what family's nourishment and love can do, and at the same time I was also trained to become an adult and fly the nest by myself. But that wasn't my family, but my family was always exceptional because I'm sure a lot of people are aware of the geography of India. So I belong to the southern tip of India, but I was born and raised in the eastern end of India, close to Manipur, which shares borders with China. And so my family is little, I would say progressive, would not be the right term, but more explorative than the rest of the families.
That sounds like you've actually matured faster than I certainly did. I stayed at home until the day that I got married, which was close to 30. So what's your experience? Do you think our parents, our family, you opening up during the panel discussion sounds like there are lots of mentors that you actually want to talk about. The next speaker is my teacher in Te Reo Māori. The mihi that I actually recited, I cheated. I made her write it for me. Her name is Hinerewa Tihau, is a highly accomplished individual of Ngāti Hine, Whakatauhea, Ngāti Kahunungu, Ngāti Maniapoto, Te Wharetua, and Ngāti Raukawa descent. With extensive experience in New Zealand's creative sector, she specialises in connecting culture to economic outcomes and has a strong focus on community-driven economic development initiatives. Hinu, as she is lovingly known, is an expert in business strategy, governance and cultural management, and has a proven track record of establishing startup businesses, organising cultural festivals and fostering social cultural networks. Currently, Hinu serves as an interim board member of the Reform of Vocational Education, Workforce Development Council for Creative Culture, Recreation and Technology. In addition to her role on the ROVE board, Hinu has also been reappointed to the board of Ringahora, Workforce Development Council, and Hinu will be standing for the National Party as a candidate for the Maori seat of Tamati Makaurau. Please give her a round of applause.
Kia ora. I'm going to stand if you don't mind. It's when you're sitting for a long time listening to amazing people, I don't know about you, but I get rather inspired. But also standing out of to be able to see all of your beautiful faces. So tēnei te mihi ki a koutou, he reo te kaupapa o taranei, ko here reo te hau tako ingo, nō reira tēnā koutou, tēnā rā koutou katoa, tēnā koe Melissa, Darlene, Mina, Amika, kia ora. So, I was, when you're standing, when you hear about yourself, you go, who's that person? I don't recognise that person, because among ethnic communities, minority ethnic community like ours. The reason I say that is because culturally it's believed generically as you come from India that you belong to a very patriarchal society, but I would like to iterate here that the kind of community that I come from, the community that I was born and brought up in Manipur, and later my dad belongs to the southern community of Tamil Nadu and my mum does too. Both of these communities are very, I would say, gender diverse and equal. I was born in a land where it's now considered to be a matriarchal society, and I was raised in a land of Madurai where the leader of the city, or I would say the goddess of the city, is a goddess. Well, goddess Meenakshi, and she is considered one of the most dynamic personalities in terms of her training towards, fighting in the war, or maybe leading her country of Pandya Empire after the death of her father. So I've always been inspired by these trailblazing women. I'm never sure if I ever fitted into the category of being a trailblazer myself, but I do have inspirational stories of the women I've seen and being mentored by that I would like to discuss in this panel today. So I would like to keep my brief short and pass it on to my dignified fellow panelists right next to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Vanakkam and kia ora, I hope I said it right, and greetings and namaste to everybody who's here today. First of all, let me begin this panel discussion or my introduction by telling you this is my first rodeo. So if I happen to break etiquette or if I happen to do some mistakes, please forgive me and please be kind with me. I've been given a brief introduction, and since
is Anamika Balachanda, I hope I haven't murdered that pronunciation, a Tamil woman who has carved an impressive path in the realm of finance, sports, and digital innovation. Anamika is 14 times Indian national medalist for discus throwing. At her university, she exemplifies the essence of perseverance and athleticism. Born in the culturally rich land of Manipur and raised amidst the vibrant surroundings of Madurai, she embraces the diversity of her heritage and upbringing, bringing a unique perspective to every endeavor, which is a wonderful trait. With a master's in business administration under her belt, Anamika has excelled in multiple industries, including retail, insurance, and IT. Her expertise in social media, I could do with some of your analysis, and accounting has positioned her as a valuable asset in driving digital transformations and financial success. Please give her a round of applause.
What they were doing was sorting us all out. They were working out who was the good singer, who was the good talker, who was the good cook, who was the good hunter and gatherer. They were actually helping us to understand what our strengths were. I was not a good cook. I had a middling voice. But for some reason they decided, okay, Darlene, you're going to sit in the whare, you're going to learn all the waiata, all the songs, and that's going to be your job, and it is to this day. They didn't bother about our weaknesses. They didn't worry about developing that. at all. They just focused on our strengths and nurturing us in our strengths, and hence that's very much the space that I work from today. And in my experience working in corporate environment, organising, managing large teams of work, I know everybody has a job description. You know, you apply for a job, la la la. These are the skill requirements. You go coaching, training, development courses and stuff. But honestly, if you're koretake or if you're useless at something, you can go on a training course, but the best that you'll ever get to is mediocre. Instead of doing that, my elders worked out, helped me to see what I was really great at, and they said, okay, just do that and you flourish. My dad was beaten in school for speaking te reo Māori. So me, as his daughter growing up, he said to me, baby, I don't want you to learn te reo Māori. It'll always be there with you. Understand our tikanga, our protocols, how we relate to things, how we connect. Whakapapa is everything. Whakapapa, our genealogical ties. When I say it's everything, for me it's my very tangible link to source. Because we're connected right down through the cosmos. Okay? I'm just having to hold that button down the whole time, and the old thumb muscle's getting a bit of a workout. So Dad said to me, listen, don't worry about learning the language. I want you to learn the ways of the Pākehā. Go and learn every other language. Go overseas, fill your kete, build your skills, and then bring them back home. So I was a good girl. I listened and I left. And I studied, I travelled, I lived in Europe for 20 years. I married a lovely Danish man and birthed 4 children and raised them in their first language, which is French. After 20 years of working in corporate and doing a whole bunch of things, really fun, really exciting stuff I would never get to do here in Aotearoa, working for any company, for any corporate, I brought my babies home and we set about, establishing a life for ourselves here. It was a very different context being Maori when I came back home 20 years later to when I had left. When I had left, I didn't feel proud to be Maori. It wasn't cool to be Maori. And it wasn't cool to be from the northern tribes. But coming back now and having spent a goodly part of the last 3 years really connecting into whenua and whānau and taiao, I realised that actually, and I feel like this is an innate truth for each and every one of us, that we are the most amazing, latest version, thinking software, version of our ancestors embodied here today. We imbue all of the skills and the knowledge and the magnificence of our ancestors here today. And so taking pride in our language and our way of being and empowering others by sharing our culture and our connections and to, welcome everybody together and to work together is one of the greatest things that we can do. And that's, I guess, the biggest thing for me today when I look across what's happening in society. I think of my ancestors who, in spite of everything, we would come together as whānau, as families, as hapu, as sub-tribe, and we would debate issues, and there would be a lot of contention in the house. Not everybody would agree, but our elders would work to bring everybody together. Kia kotahi ai te iwi, for the benefit of the collective. And when I think about, leadership and everything that we're doing today, that's one of the things that I think of the most. How do we bring people together in ever-increasing diverse cultures together and integrate into this beautiful whenua taurikura ko Aotearoa i. Kia ora mai tātou.
Thank you so much. Darlene, the very idea, the aspiration that we would be the best version of our ancestor actually really resonate with me. And I think for most ethnic cultures, ethnic people who have actually moved to New Zealand understand that. The aspirations of their family to move, give up everything, to move to a new culture. And whakapapa is very important to us. Not many people actually know this, but for Korean people, we have sort of like the tribes. So my surname is Lee, but when I mention my surname, most people ask, what Lee are you in Korean? And I have to give them my tribe name, which is Kyungju Lee. And they will ask for my generation name, and it actually basically decides where I stand. One day there was a Korean speaker who visited New Zealand. He and I had the same name, so he asked me what tribe I belonged to, and we actually figured out that we were the same. He was 40 years older than I was, almost, and he said, what generation name are you? And they literally joked about how, oh, she's like a grandchild, and realized that he and I were same generation, that he could not talk down at me even though he was 40 years older than me. So that's how whakapapa actually works in Korea. So thank you for that. That's really lovely. The next, give her a round of applause. Thank you. That was very interesting.
Pressing the button. Who would have thought? Tēnā tātou. Ka tika ka tukumihi ki ngā tāngata whenua ki te whānui o Papatua Nuku Marae. Tēnā rā tātou katoa koutou nei manaaki kia mātou. O tira kia tātou katoa, kia ora mai tātou. It's really lovely to be here, really a privilege, and I thank you. And just as I'm using that word kia ora, I'm just thinking back to the previous panel around language. And then the imperative of language, the beauty of language. Kia ora, I'm going to break it down, because reo, for me, R-E-O, represents the real earth oratory. Because our languages are vibrational, right? They connect us in, te reo Maori, te reo rangatira connects me in to Papatua Nuku, our earth mother. Connects me also into Ranginui, Sky Father, and everything that exists in between. So when I introduce or walk down the street and I go kia ora to somebody, what am I actually saying? For the average Kiwi, I might be just saying, oh, g'day mate, or hi, how you doing? Actually, what I'm doing is I'll break it down, Ora, or ra, or of Ra, the sun, tamanui te rā. Kia is an activator. I am activating all the incredible light and warmth and energy and vitality of the sun into you. I'm acknowledging your connection to the cosmos, to the universe. That for me is unleashing an incredible amount of power. So when you hear kia ora, or when you want to say kia ora to somebody, do it with gusto, do it with meaning, because you are imbuing the magnificence of our environment into that person. I'm raised as Maori to understand that Maori is to be ordinary. Ordinary in the sense that I am part of the natural fabric of this land. I am no better. I am certainly no worse. Everything has Maori, life force. Everything has mana, integrity, power, if you will. And everything has tapu, sanctity. When I look at those things collectively, I think of agency. everything, everyone has Maori, mana and tapu, which means that our relationships that we have with each other are really important and we need to nurture those too. I was raised on my marae in Waitangi in the Bay of Islands, and mea culpa, it's my fault that we're not eating.
So many questions of you, but I just want to actually confirm that you are a trailblazing woman. Not just a girl, someone who's actually reliant on parents. I know all about that. I had to ask my parents if I could attend my friend's 21st birthday party in Australia when mum and dad were in Malaysia. I rang up Malaysia, Mum, can I go to my girlfriend's 21st birthday party? And that was the moment when my mum said, why are you ringing up to ask permission? I had no idea that I didn't have to ask her permission. I've always asked question until that moment. And then it just clicked one day. Oh, I don't have to ask question. That moment happened for me then, and for you. It's like, it's a journey, isn't it? And thank you so much. Amazing speaker. I'm just going to go through to other speakers before we actually do a discussion. So next up is Darlene Tana, who's actually sitting first on my right. She's a Green Party candidate for Tamaki Makaurau on the Maori role, infusing Te Ao Maori values into her role as kaitiaki taio, business owner and mama. With international business leadership experience and Indigenous Maori wisdom, she naturally connects and guides across cultures and sectors. With over 20 years of senior leadership experience, Darlene excels at bringing talent together to co-create better environmental outcomes. She is comfortable working in corporate, SME, NGO, or grassroots community settings, fostering collaboration and positive change. The whakatoki, and I quote, "Koutou roro, kotaku roro, ka ora e te iwi e. With your food basket and my food basket, the people will thrive," resonate with Darlene. It reflects the thrill of achieving collective well-being by acknowledging our talents, whakapapa, and leading from our strength, mana. Welcome. Please give her a round of applause.
Trailblazing women, and I think on that space I think I'm already a trailblazer because I'm living with the uncertainty for 15 years, married for 15 years now. So now I've landed into the New Zealand. Now the next episode is to get a job. But God, I never thought that getting a job or finding a job is like finding a unicorn in a haystack. Wherever I go, I was just haunted by this question: do you have New Zealand experience? I get the same thing everywhere, but if nobody is ready to give me a chance to experience, how would I get New Zealand experience? I didn't understand that. But after a long struggle, I was landed into a job. So drum rolls please, it's a scanner job. Yes, the tech savvy, a software developer, turning into a scanner. My role is take a paper, scan it, put it aside. Scan, 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 and one day I thought I could even win an Olympic gold medal if there was a faster scanner competition there. But in our culture, we are always asked to pause and reflect on what we do. So I did reflect and I had a self-realization. I was not born for scanning this. I was born for achieving my dreams. I had a lot of dreams in my career. I wanted to achieve it. So I embarked a solo journey and went out of my comfort zone and came from New Plymouth, where my husband was, to Wellington, all by myself, leaving my husband behind in New Plymouth. You may think that it is quite easy and simple, but for a person like me who's completely dependent on my parents before marriage and completely dependent on my husband after marriage, it was the toughest decision ever. And I still remember I was crying the whole way through. But anyway, after coming to Wellington, when I landed on the right job and when I climbed up the ladder, in the industry as a tech consultant, I was really happy and I thought I was independent, and I started flying with spreading my wings up the clouds. And even then, I don't think I've just carved the path for my professional and personal journey, but I've not carved anything like a trailblazer women, because they carve a path where everybody else can walk on the trail, right? So I was missing something. So I always had a passion to instill the language and the culture to the future generation. So I started taking classes for a few people at my home in the Tamil and Maori, Tamil culture, not Maori culture, sorry. Yeah. So yes, and then I worked with my Yeah, just 1 minute, please. If I'm okay. Is it right? Yeah. So, and then I bumped up to my friend who had the same passion. So I worked with him to set up a Tamil school in Wellington. And I have been a volunteer in the same school for about 7 years now. And then Ravin approached me for another school which will cover the Wellington area. So I also helped them with that. So this way I'm imparting the knowledge on others. And when I bumped in the Tamil community, I also discovered a lot of hidden potentials in me, because they trusted my speaking skills and they started calling me to host events or debate shows and so many things, which actually improved my confidence. So the community makes a difference as well, because I raised all my confidence skills, and then it instilled another thought in me. Why don't I do the same thing in the profession? So I started doing the workshops and training things in the profession so that I can impart my knowledge on others. So I started empowering others by all these things that my culture and my community has given to me. So now, after with all the help and support from my husband and my kids, I have taken up a few leadership positions now recently, which is, as Melissa G mentioned, it's the Vice President of Wellington Muthamil Sangam, Secretary and the Trustee of Sangha Tamil Palli, and organizer of Wellington Muthamil Sangam, and an independent tech consultant and a lecturer overseas as well. So just to reflect a small thing back, what changed me from being a dependent girl to an empowering girl is basically 6 things that changed me. The first thing is embracing the uncertainty, and then pausing and self-reflecting on ourselves, and then going out of the comfort zone, and then being in touch with the community and share what you know with others and empower others. And I think that is the main thing that changed and transformed my life. And I hope you guys would have got a little bit of inspiration from my story. I'm not sure, but anyway, thanks a lot for the patience. Thanks. She is the queen of the rural part of South India, Tamil Nadu. And it was a time when the British was conquering most of the world. And she has just lost her husband to the British Army, and she has a little child to take care of. And this is the situation, and she has got 2 options. 1 is to abandon the country and just flee with her child. And 2, to be the real guardian and protector of the country and just fight with the army and get their land and culture back. In Tamil culture, we always revere the land, and we always value the land, and we fight tooth and nail to protect the land. And I think this is one of the common thing between the Tamil and the Maori culture as well, right? So yes, our queen did not think about any of the challenges that lie in front of her. She did not have a husband. She just lost, she has a child to take care of. She did not have a big army to fight against the British. And she did not have any advanced weapons in her armory. But still, she rose against the British. She held her sword just high in the air, and with fierce determination within her, she just rose with all her little troop against the battle. And once when she was thinking that they were losing the game, you know what the chief lady commando did? She was coyly, and she set herself in fire and just ran into the opposite armory, enemy armory, and just demolished it completely, letting the troop to go forward. So the troop went forward, marched forward, did not stop a moment, and they hold the victory finally. And this is the victory, and this is the history, and that is Rani. Can you guess who I'm speaking about? Not Rani Mukherjee. It's Rani Velu Nachiyar for you. So yes, she's Rani Velu Nachiyar. And I think I was carried a little bit with the story and got a little bit ferocious. So I would like to mellow down. And while we are all mellowing down, I'll introduce you to another trailblazing woman who was a pioneer in an industry which was even prohibited for women in those days. So there were 2 sisters. And as you all know, in Tamil culture, we value family a lot. And again, this is another common thing between the Tamil and the Maori culture. Because family is where life starts and it ends with love, right? So the 2 sisters shared unbreakable bonds. And unfortunately, the younger sibling was diagnosed with cancer. In those days, if somebody is diagnosed with cancer, they do nothing. They just wait for the death to come and take them, right? But this elder sister could have succumbed to the situation and could have just been in depression. but what she wanted to achieve. And the way she was brought up to do something to the community, to do something to the whānau, made her think that she needed to do 3 things in her life. She wanted to become a doctor, she wanted to become a cancer specialist, and she wanted to also open a cancer institute to give free medications to the cancer patients. If you think of all these things in modern days, it's easier to achieve. But in those days, in 19th century, where the women were even prohibited from school education, it was really hard. But she broke all the stereotypes, she broke all the barriers, and she did achieve the 3 things. And she was the first women physician in India. And she did open the Adyar Cancer Institute in Chennai. And it is still the pride of India, and it still serves as the leading research center in cancer, and it does provide free service to all the cancer patients who can't afford it. Can you guess about the person whom I'm talking about? Muthulakshmi Reddy, that's right, yeah. Yeah, after those 2 inspiring tales, I think you need some fun, right? Because it was all really too much of intelligence and too much of bravery and courage. So now, let's talk about my journey. It's going to be fun. I may not be a historical figure, and I'm not a trailblazing women leader, but still I think you could take a little bit of inspiration from my fun journey. So, ladies and gentlemen, please get ready for a roller coaster ride, because my journey started from the vibrant land of India, that is Tamil Nadu. And I'll tell you how I landed in New Zealand. That's a really, really interesting story. I think you guys would love it. So, I was born in Tamil Nadu, and I was born to a very, very close-knit Chettinad family where they raise the girls with responsibility, but then they do over-pamper and over-protect the girls. So I was so much pampered that even if I think that I wanted to buy something in my mind, even before I express it, I'll just get it in my hands. That's how I was pampered. It's cool, right? Do you girls think cool? Even I thought it was cool when I was in school, but unfortunately, on the other hand, I was completely dependent on my parents. I can't think on my own. It was always dependency. But anyway, I just continued to get my education. I got my engineering, and then I moved on to software industry. And then I realized that I was quite independent in the profession because I was really good at it. And I was climbing the ladder quite quickly and got to the team leader position, but my parents got a different plan for me. They just thought it was time for me to enter in the land of arranged marriages. I'm not sure if you guys know of arranged marriage. So let me educate you first on arranged marriages. It's just a blindfolded tale. You know, it's a blindfolded dance where your parents become the matchmakers and you just trust their judgment. Just trust it, that's it. So one fine day my father came and he told me that he found an exact match for me. And I was like, who's that? And he said, it's a dashing, brilliant software engineer who's working in the concrete jungles of New Jersey. New Jersey. Yes. I like New Jersey. So I said, okay, that looks fine. So I told my parents that I was even a little bit excited to see this New Jerseyite. And what happened then was really good. My family swung into action. They set up a meet and greet session for me. And what happened in the meet and greet session is we went on a date, on our first date, to a temple dating with 20 people with us. And it was not just our immediate family, it was an extended family as well. So just imagine being on a date with live audiences. Isn't that cool? And on top of that, we were given 10 long minutes to discuss between us and find out whether we are compatible. 10 minutes, all the while being observed like specimens in zoo by all the 20 pairs of eyes around us. Just talk about pressure, guys. I know.
As introduced, I'm a member of parliament, but that is not the reason I think I was selected. I think I was selected because I used to be a television presenter, and I used to do these kinds of panels a long time ago on television. But since being in parliament, I haven't done one of those for a while, hopefully. So if I make any kind of mistakes, you will forgive me because I'm slightly out of action in television and presenting. But I know that I'm loud and you can hear me. So if you're going to be talking, as the MC said, please make your way outside. You can actually talk freely. Otherwise, please make your way forward so you can participate in this. Initially, we were going to do 10-minute speeches, but I think some of the panel members decided that that's not what they really wanted to do, and they really wanted to have a conversation. So let me introduce the first speaker. and they were selected at random. I did eeny, meeny, miny, mo. The first speaker is on my right. Her name is Meena Krishnan, and she's an experienced senior automation test engineer with a strong background in software testing and automation. With over a decade in industry experience, she has worked with reputable organizations in both New Zealand and India, contributing to various projects and delivering successful outcomes. Meena Krishnan has a proven track record of working in diverse environments, including financial institutions, government agencies, and technology companies. In addition to her technical expertise, Meena is actively involved in the Wellington community and holds the position of Vice President of Wellington with Tamil Sangam for the year 2023. In this role, she contributes to the promotion of Tamil language and culture, fostering a sense of belonging and cultural exchange among the Tamil community in Wellington. Please give her a round of applause.
Thank you for the nice introduction, Melissa. I was thinking that this is going to be after lunch, so I was very much prepared for having lunch now. But anyway, so kia ora, vanakkam, and greetings, everyone. Before I begin my speech, I would like to take this moment to sincerely thank the team behind this Tamil Maori Hui. And it's a great pleasure to be part of this Whakawanangatanga, which is a great way of creating and establishing the relationships between Tangata Whenua and the Tamils living in Aotearoa. I've prepared for a 10-minute speech. I'm sorry, I'm not going to reduce it. Right. விடியுமா என தெரியாத இரவில் முடியுமா என புரியாத நிலையில் தீண்டாத பாதையிலும் தாண்டாத சமுத்திரத்திலும் எடுத்து வைக்கும் ஒவ்வொரு அடியும் வரலாற்றின் முக்கியமான பக்கங்களாகும். On this very note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to talk a bit about the historic tales that unfolded in the uncharted waters. First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about a few inspiring role models that I have got, and then at the final stages, I would like to say a few incidences from my life journey as well. Women are unleashing their potentials in various fields nowadays, which could be leading a home with care and determination, or leading a nation by breaking the barriers. And they could be pioneers in arts, medicine, etc. Or they could be the influential leaders like Melissa Lee in politics or in business and so on. And first of all, let me begin to inspire.
Can everyone hear me? Oh, brilliant. For this second panel discussion, we have Unleashing the Power, Trailblazing Tamil Maori Women Leaders. The second panel discussion focuses on inspiring journeys, cultural influences, and accomplishments of Tamil and Maori women. It aims to promote community development and advancement through interactive sessions that prioritize education. This panel discussion will be moderated by none other than the Honourable Melissa Lee, Member of Parliament. And as Melissa is making her way up, Melissa entered Parliament as a Nationalist MP following National's victory in the 2008 election. Her election made her the first Korean woman to hold office outside of Korea in a National Assembly, and New Zealand's first Korean MP. Melissa's background has ensured her place as a strong advocate for New Zealand's diverse ethnic communities. Her vision is for a country that is safe, secure, and prosperous. But before I hand over, I'm requesting all the participants who are at the back also, if you will, those who are participating, please make your way, come and sit down. Or if you are going to talk, please go outside. It's not very respectful for our panel members and our moderators. So if you want to sit and participate, please make your way to the front. Thank you. And over to the Honourable Melissa Lee. Thank you very much.
Which bonds the families together. The digital technologies can help us to do that. And if we properly adopt the digital technologies, wherever you are in the world, you'll be able to keep your language alive. And in that way, you can keep your culture alive and your families together.
Thank you. And same question for you yourself, Corinne?
I would say so. That made me think about, so 3 years ago, we were right in the middle of a pandemic, and we didn't quite know what to do for Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, because usually we gather for parades and celebrate it together. So we decided to launch a digital campaign called Te Wā Tuku Reo Māori, the Māori language moment, and it invited everybody to sign up for it and tell us what they were doing for that moment safely for Te Reo Māori. And we thought, maybe we'll get 50,000 if we're lucky. Maybe we'll get 100,000 if we're really, really lucky. We ended up getting 1 million people signed up to the moment, which is just like amazing. And because we were thinking, you know, our audacious goal was by 2040, we want 1 million speakers, but we already had 1 million people participating in this Māori language moment during a time when things were so uncertain, but people held on to Te Reo Māori, and we noticed that as well. So I definitely think, even though especially over the past 3 years it's been kind of up and down, yeah, we're definitely in a better position than we were.
Thank you. And 1 million, that's amazing.
Yeah.
In yourself, Mahesh, so do you think we're in a better position now?
Absolutely, we are. And it's always, it always feels like there are so many challenges, but when you look at the history of time, human society keeps improving. Poverty is reducing, health is getting better, etc. We're grappling with so many challenges at any given moment, but things are getting better. But I think things keep getting better when we keep grappling and keep, challenging ourselves. One thing I'd like to say is where it really gets better is in these kind of environments. When you trust communities and trust societies and trust people to have these kind of conversations and openness, things really start to accelerate. Technology allows that to happen because it allows for more power to go to like the individual and the community, even more so than in any central system, which is exciting.
Thank you so much. I'm just conscious of time. I've been told that we're almost time's up. Just a couple of sentences from me that I've summed up when I was traveling from Palmerston North to Auckland this morning. So I just want to clarify that language resurgence is not merely about reviving ancient tongues or dialects, because there's no real value unless it connects with unless it connects with culture and our identity. And of course, when a language is lost, an entire worldview is lost as well. So we need to look for unique ways to describe nature, emotions, traditions, social structures. Unless we do any of those, we actually leave a void in our collective understanding. So on this note, can I please ask that you put your hands? Oh, I think we've got a question. Silver, apologies. Have you got 1 or 2 more minutes for some questions?
Okay. I've got a question for Mahesh. Where do you get the salt? It's distracting.
It's a secret place. I'll share with you next time. Yeah, thank you.
Arthur, I just have a question. You heard the dialogue and you nicely summarized it. So how does the ministry can facilitate this interaction?
I'll just repeat that question, not the one I'm asking Mahesh. You heard the dialogue and the summary you provided was apt. So how Ministry of Ethnic Communities can help the Tamil community and the Maori Language Commission, because there is already an initiative piloted in Wellington, but we like to see this going beyond that, but it takes everyone to move the ship. So I like
absolutely. And I think when it comes to investing in language and culture, it is not just for us, but it's for the next generation as well. And I think this is something that all of us can agree on. So one of the key areas that we have, and I'll go back to the ECDF funding, our Ethnic Communities Development Fund. So the ministry has $4.2 million each year that we distribute to community organizations to pursue a range of cultural, arts, or in fact initiatives that will promote or advance ethnic communities communities. So can I suggest, please, respectfully, that if any of you do not know about the Ethnic Communities Development Fund, it is on our website, which is www.ethniccommunities.govt.nz. I'll be here over the next hour or so over lunch. So grab hold of me, and I'll be happy to have a chat with you about some of the ideas that you have. And just before I close up, I also do want to acknowledge the Member of Parliament, Melissa Lee, whom I've missed out, apologies, and other representatives from the government who may be here today. So on that note, can I get everyone please to put your hands together for our speakers, Mahesh, and Makani. Thank you so much. Happy Delmo. Cheers.
Story of who you are, which then allows you to very comfortably go, I don't know, but I want to learn. And you start asking questions, and that opens you up to learn even more. So I think it goes back again, if you can get to a place in regards to where you are. And most cultures, the minute you go, I don't know, and I'd like to know, they open up so fast. So I think that helps.
It's the willingness, isn't it? It's just the proactiveness that comes from within yourself to learn a language and culture.
Correct. Yeah. So I've actually even mentored people where you actually just say those words, right? Just learn to say I don't know, and I'd like to learn. And you ask those questions, and all kinds of things start happening.
Sure. Thank you. Makiri, a question for yourself. You operate within the areas of communications and engagement. What's your personal observation of the use of Te Reo in your line of work, or say over the last 10 years? Has it increased? Has it deepened in terms of engagement, who you work with, but also in terms of day-to-day communications across different communities?
Yeah, it's definitely in the past 10, in the beginning of my career was kind of here and there, but stepping into Te Taurawhiri, I've been there about 3 years now. You can clearly see just the resurgence of Te Reo Maori taking up not only...
We start at a young age.
Yes, we start at the kindergarten to teach them 2-3 different languages. It's very easy to do it now because you can get it connected from anywhere in the world. You can, for example, Tamil can be taught in New Zealand from our native place, and we have some of the Tamil teachers sitting there. Our beloved Sujata, may I request you to please stand up. She is a Tamil teacher who has been doing a lot of work here with the younger kids. So we can have representatives in New Zealand, and we can have representatives from the native place to make sure that the kids start learning the language very young. And it has also been said that when you start teaching...
Thank you. Tēnā tātou katoa, ko Shabarimala te maonga, ko Wairinga te awa, no Korikod aho, ko Makancheri toko whanau, ko Mahesh toko ingoa, tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Mahesh. As Alvin was kind enough to introduce, I came to New Zealand on my own when I was 14 in 1994. So that was a long time ago. There were only 35,000 Indians way back when. Now there's 250,000 Indians in New Zealand. It's incredible for me to witness the ceremony today. Given I speak 2 Indian languages, Tamil and Malayalam, because of my time in Singapore, and just to see the cultural connection between Maori and Papakura Marae and the Tamil Association is unreal. So I want to really thank and give incredible thanks to Papakura Marae for hosting, and the Tamil community and leadership team of Raveen and Vi and bringing this all together. Languages are a powerful thing. They actually contain, and when I came back to New Zealand, I actually did quite a few courses in Māoritanga. And Māoritanga touches this too, and historical languages touches this too, that there's so much in words, so many things, so much meaning in words, so many things are conveyed in regards to rituals, practices, which specific words in a specific language can only contain. And it's quite powerful when it's passed on through generations, and it's important. I think it's exciting that that Te Reo is on the ascent all over again in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And one interesting thing I'll talk about is you said I work as an entrepreneur. And programming languages are also a form of language, and you see the different cultures in different programming languages too. So it's important to understand the different, perspectives that different languages come together from, and then you try to understand them, learn them, and then you understand even more about how the world operates. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Can I ask you a couple of questions here? So you mentioned that you learn Tamil and you speak Malayalam. And apologies for my ignorance here. What has been some of the more challenging aspects of learning the two languages? And also, how do you differentiate between when to use which of them when it comes to your line of work, for instance?
It's a good question because they are quite similar languages. So I know the Tamil script. I can read and write Tamil fluently, but that's not my mother tongue. My mother tongue is Malayalam, which I can't read and write. My grandfather tried to teach me the Malayalam script, but it was too similar to Tamil. And to be honest, as a 12-year-old, I was too busy playing video games than trying to pick up another script. But it's funny, these days when I go to sleep, I try to listen to old Malayalam songs, and I reach out to my history and the stories and images of my past and my grandparents and so forth. So when do I use them? I use them infrequently amongst friends and so forth. I'm proud of the fact that I have that connection, and I'm excited to spend more time learning Te Reo. I don't know how useful it is, other than it strengthens my identity. I know who I am, I know where I come from, which then allows me to learn more things very comfortably because I understand my identity. And I think that's something that's really powerful.
Right, so it's probably fair to say that as you got older, you could understand the value of language and how it helped you form your culture and your identity. Is there one advice that you can share with some of the young kids who are here who potentially may be struggling with an element of identity or language learning?
Watch popular TV shows in your language. I think don't stress about it too much. I try to watch TV shows and movies in Te Reo because it's. I think sometimes if you struggle with something in the middle of everything else going on in life, it's hard. But if you allow yourself to just settle in slowly, it's a lot better. So go watch some nice Netflix shows in the language that you're interested in.
That's very good advice. Thank you, Mahesh. And Mahesh, the academic, tell us a bit about yourself and your very first experience with languages.
I will start with thanking the Maori community for welcoming us very warmly into the country and Papakura Marae for having us here. My first experience of going back to languages when I started my PhD. I was doing a cognitive science, and a cognitive science which is not related to the medical field. I wanted to do something on cognitive related to engineering. I found it very difficult to find articles or ideas which are related to the cognitive perspective of the day-to-day routine. Interestingly, I found one of a classical literature which was very famous in our language, which starts like Yadu More Yavaram Keller. So this is basically a sentence which we always say that everyone in this world is related to us in one way or other. But interestingly, that poem was completely on cognitive behavior, where it states that the stress is something which nobody can give you unless you take it. So that's the starting point. Then I went into it and started to look at the language, then the science behind the languages. really astonished me. For example, the Tamil language which we speak, I have to mention this also, even though I come from the land which was the place where Tamil originated. I studied in a school where they said if you speak Tamil, we'll charge you for that. They give a ticket to us and we have to pay a fine. That's the orientation towards English, which we have been looking in a place very similar to what happened in New Zealand quite a few years ago. So coming back to when I came here in New Zealand, I started looking at what does this language tell us? And I started to understand the science behind it. So basically the languages, which is very cultural or very heritage oriented or Augustus languages, have something in common. Basically all these languages talk about the mind, body and soul. If we take our alphabets, the soul represents the vowels for us. And when Jason was just giving us this brief on what vowels Maori language use, it's quite intriguing to know that we have very similar vowels in our system. A, E, E, U, O. These are the 5 base vowels. And we call it as short vowels, kural. And the long vowels is an extension version of that. So it means A is an extension version of it. And then we have 2 more vowels which is attached, which is A plus E, which equals I, and U plus O, which equals O. So this is quite surprising when I looked at it. So there are a lot of common things. And you also have to understand that the vowels in Tamil language represents the soul, and the consonant represents the body parts of it. And one of the things I also looked at is the loss of language started somewhere in 1888 when the phonetics system came into existence, where the sounds of multi-languages around the world were combined together into a common way of pronunciation. And in some way after 1888 to 2020, we have lost our language. The way which we pronounce is almost very similar, but actually it is not similar. And the way which we pronounce our language is entirely different. Some of the vowels which we pronounce has to come from the breath, and the consonants which we pronounce should come from the body parts. So these scientific things have been lost on the way. One of the good things of being an academic is trying to understand how this language has been formed, what is the basis of it, and how do we revive it. With the digital technologies coming in, it is quite easy for us to take our language across the globe. And wherever you are, you can still be taught with the base system of your native place. So that is one advantage which is coming up in the current scenario. However, the youngsters has to be brought into the system to make sure that they understand the cultural bondage, the family bond, and the traditional language bond which they have to have. So one of the things is to start very early, a bilingual or a trilingual classes for the school kids at an young age, where we can bring in various languages and make them proficient. So that's one way of looking at it.
So that's obviously
classes to their community, to their rangatahi. So yeah, and to your point about passing down to generations about te reo Maori, the first thought I had when I looked at this topic was, of course, my grandparents. The mahi that they did gathering signatures for Te Pētihana Reo Māori, the Māori language petition, they weren't doing it for themselves per se, they were doing it for me, even though I wasn't even a thought yet in this world. But we know, and I can tell by some of the kōrero that have happened today, that our people think in generations. They don't think in years. It's about generations, what's going to benefit our mokopuna, what's going to benefit their mokopuna. So they did that with me in mind, which kick-started a whole movement towards how do we preserve te reo Māori for them. And so I benefited from their direct action to preserving Te Reo Māori. So yeah, that's I'm very grateful to them. I wouldn't be able to have my reo, and it unites me with them in the way that they ensured that I could communicate with them because they were native speakers of Te Reo Māori, and because of them we now have, and obviously other reo champions. We have Kohanga Reo, which is language nest or total immersion te reo education, and kura kaupapa. And I attended both of those, and so both in my home and in school, they gave me that taonga of my reo. So it's definitely, yeah, it's important to pass that down through generations.
Of Te Maori, Te Reo Maori education. She graduated with a Bachelor's of Communication Studies from the AUT in 2012 and has been working in communications and engagement for almost 10 years. She is currently the team leader for the partnerships and promotion arms of Maori Language Commission, and she's also the board member for PRINCE, which is otherwise known as the Public Relations Institute of New Zealand. Makiri has worked on a number of infrastructure projects, including New Zealand's largest transport infrastructure project, the City Rail Link. And her time on these projects included engaging important diverse communities across Tamaki Makaurau here in Auckland. So Te Reo Maori is a significant part of Makiri's life, beginning before she was born. Her grandparents were Maori educators who gathered signatures for the Maori language petition, which was presented to Parliament on the 14th of September 1972, which is coincidentally also the date of Te Wiki o Te Reo Maori, or the Maori Language Week, which is very much centered on this specific date. They also supported the use of Te Reo Maori in schools in early Te Reo movements before it became an official language of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Makiri attributes her success as a Maori communications and engagement professional to their dedication to education and revitalizing Te Reo Maori. My second panel speaker is Mahesh Babu, and Mahesh migrated to New Zealand in 2016, earning his engineering doctorate from AUT in 2019. So here we have got two AUT alumni. And Mahesh currently works at AUT in the School of Future Environments. In 2020, he released a Tamil poetry book and is known for giving speeches about the scientific connections of the Tamil language in Auckland and in Wellington. Mahesh is an accomplished researcher with 5 Q1 journal publications and 9 conference publications. His main interest revolves primarily around developing interactions-inspired approaches for various industries, including lean project scheduling, health and safety, fire, digital technologies, and women's engagement in construction and machine learning. Prior to joining AUT, Mahesh has had 25 years of industrial experience managing lean manufacturing units, covering manufacturing procurement, warehousing, marketing, demand planning, and change management. You're a busy man. And Mahesh has led projects that integrated digital and IT solutions to reduce stress in manufacturing environments and design process architecture for facilities and supply chain management. His impactful research and publications have earned him recognition. Mahesh has also edited 2 books in English and contributed to a United Nations report. His ultimate aim is to bridge the gap between key influencing factors in industry outputs, leveraging his diverse expertise to improve industrial systems and drive process. And our third panel speaker is Mahesh, a proud Kiwi from Singapore who in fact migrated from Singapore at the age of 14, gaining a strong appreciation for regional New Zealand and community. Studying at the University of Auckland, he immersed himself in the city's pulse, understanding its people and potential. A life-altering accident on a reality TV show led Mahesh to experience immense support from the Auckland community. This reinforced his belief in the city spirit and fueled his resilience. With a successful consulting career spanning Auckland, Tokyo, Kuala Lumpur, Mumbai, Mahesh's passion for startups flourished. Excuse me. He has made significant contributions to Canva's growth and held leadership roles at Airtasker and Simply Wall Street, and became a respected figure in the tech startup ecosystem. Returning to Auckland in 2021, Mahesh joined the National Party's Auckland Central Executive, chairing the economy, infrastructure, and technology policy group. Mahesh aimed to serve his community. Additionally, he has also founded Phase 1 Ventures, mentoring local founders and supporting Kiwi startups. Mahesh's deep connections to Auckland Central drives his commitment to creating a thriving and inclusive home. He focuses on critical issues like safety, economy, climate change, and transport infrastructure. Can I get all of you please to put your hands together for 3 panel speakers? So before I kick off with a bit of an introduction, I want to do some acknowledgement. So I'd like to acknowledge, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge Ravindran, our Tanada Whenua, the Auckland Tamil Association, and of course the Aotearoa New Zealand Federation of Tamil, Sangam, and all its delegates from all across the country. So this morning I've had the privilege of meeting some of the delegates from Wellington and as far down as Dunedin. So I do want to say a warm welcome to Auckland. So everyone, just coming back to this topic itself, we live in a world where there's advancing globalization and homogenization. And one of the key things to note is that we need to recognize that the significance of preserving and revitalizing our indigenous languages and dialects cannot be overstated. And very often the languages and dialects that we take on board are often passed through generations, and they carry the essence of our culture, heritage, and our identity. Unfortunately, many of the indigenous languages that we know are in peril, and many of which are struggling to survive under the pressure of global expansion, cultural assimilation, and the allure of mainstream languages. But I do want to say that there is hope, and there are many things that we can do and concrete steps that we can take to make sure that we protect our languages. So one of the key things that we can do, clearly, is that governments, communities, educational institutions will need to collaborate to integrate indigenous languages into curriculum. And by teaching languages to younger generations, we not only preserve linguistic diversity, but also foster a sense of pride in their heritage. When children learn the language of their ancestors, they gain a deeper appreciation for their roots, enhancing their cultural awareness and promoting tolerance and understanding. And on this note, I do want to say that the Ministry for Ethnic Communities has a Ethnic Communities Development Fund, or what we call ECDF, and many of you here will know the ECDF funding. So we have $4.2 million that the ministry assesses each year, and we distribute it across to a range of organizations, community organizations, for the specific purpose of encouraging cultural diversity. And of course, language and culture programs are more than welcome to be invited for assessment for the funds to be granted. And on the second point, technology. Very often we see technology as a threat to traditional languages, but then again, technology can be a powerful ally in the resurgence. Social media platforms, mobile applications, and online resources can be harnessed to promote and preserve indigenous languages. And through language learning apps, interactive games, and virtual economies, we can actually connect speakers of endangered languages to create a global network of language enthusiasts. And finally, promoting multiculturalism is crucial for language resurgence. Encouraging bilingualism and multilingualism in society can help bridge the gap between the dominant language and indigenous languages. So on this note, I'm just going to hand off to my first speaker. I believe that she has got a couple of, a small introduction she'd like to present. Over to you.
Ka pai, kia ora mai tātou, kia tau te Maori ki runga i a tātou katoa i tēnei wā, tēnā tātou. Tuatahi e tika me mihi ki Papakura Marae, kei konei mātou ringa i tō karanga i tō whakatau mai nā reira tēnā koutou. Me mihi hoki ki a rātou kua wehi ki te pō, i te marama o maihe konei a hau ki, mo te tangi o Whaegai no Joyce nā reira, ka whakaro, ka hoki o ku whakaro ki aia. Huri noa ki a tātou, te hunga ora no reira, tēnā tātou. Hiuri tēnei o Ngāti Tūwharetoa, o Ngāti Kahuhoki, ko Mākere Carol ahau. Kia ora tātou, my name is Mākere Carol, and I'm currently the team leader for partnerships and promotions at Te Taurewhiri Te Reo Māori, and part of that role is we've had the pleasure and the honour to work with Ravine and the Tamil community in Te Whanganui.
I'll speak in English so everyone can understand me. So a part of our protocol is when someone lays a poha for us, we pick it up and receive it to acknowledge and to pay homage to those that are giving us this amazing taonga or this gift. So just it's only right that I'm up here to say thank you on behalf of our marae. In terms of a whakaro Māori or in a Māori perspective, it's the thought behind the gift, and for us, this gift will be able to support the families that we support in our community. So, I just want to acknowledge all of the amazing representatives and speakers. For us, it's an honour to have you guys in our whare. It's a place of warmth, it's a place where we support our community, whether it be, like Matua said, for youth courts or for other important meetings. This is where we operate every day. So it's our honour to have you here. We hope the kaupapa goes well today and all the meetings. All the different things that come with it. And yeah, so no reira, ko tēnei te puna aroha o Papakura Marae, o tira o ngā whānau o Papakura e noho nei. Ki o koutou katoa ngā manuhiri kua tae mai, hei whānau mo tēnei marae. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. So I'm just getting my orders from my boss over here. So we're just going to wait to hear that the food will be ready. So Whaia Sandy will just go and check for us. And when we hear her doing a karanga, that will be the sign to go across for food. So maybe if we just relax in here for a bit and we'll let you know when food is.
I thank you for allowing us into your marae and making us one of your family. And today we are going to have a lot of dialogues today, the whole day, bringing the both the community, the Maori and the Tamil. A lot of discussions are going to take place. And also one good thing is we are going to taste our Tamil dishes made by the Maori. So, and so we are going to exchange we are going to taste today, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we have got other entertainments, and the whole day, let's all enjoy and make this occasion a beautiful one. God, which will be for you. And we like to honor
language from Maori.
Many other names like that. Even the drink which you, of course, people like there's a divide between Pepsi and Coke, but the Pepsi CEO Indra Duvey also is from Tamil. And this way, in India, we had a President Abdul Kalam Azad, one of the world's most famous scientists who developed a lot of things also comes from that state. And it's not just literary things and things like that. Tamil also is leading India in terms of entertainment and movies. So the Tamil, the movie side in Tamil also. So it's a very 360-degree, fully well-rounded community and culture. And I really salute you and thank you that you have taken this lead of this hui between Tamil, which is the leading language and culture of India, along with Maori and many other communities. You should bring them all together and let's live in this multicultural New Zealand. Last thing which I also want to share with you is India also is anchored or fulcrum around the theories of the great Mahatma Gandhi. And I'm told there's a huge connection between Mahatma Gandhi and the Maori people through that Parihaka and Rangomai. Wally would know that. So the stories between our culture and Maori culture, as I earlier also said, are so many that I can go all day. But I will now choose to shut up and thank you all for inviting me here. And I really wish that this confluence of communities, this, bringing us all together and living in, look forward to a more cohesive, multicultural New Zealand. Thank you. Thank you. Raveen and why, who have this vision, because this vision is very important for multicultural New Zealand to bring all our communities together, especially the Maori community. I know maybe we have short of time, but I would like to say a few things about this beautiful Tamil community we have in India. Raveen has said that this is the oldest language in the world. I would like to encourage you to go and look at that. The Tamil culture also is the world's most ancient culture. Just like I've had the privilege of visiting a lot of maraes across New Zealand, even spent days there, and I have immersed myself in the Maori culture, and the more I spend time, the more realization happens that this confluence of cultures, the culture we come from and your culture is very, very similar. Okay, we might be having a different language now, but the ethos, the DNA, the genetics behind this culture of these ancient cultures, just like we see all your, you put photos of your seniors, our culture also does that, we respect all our, and one thing which I always am quite mesmerized is the modern day world, one of the most fashionable things to talk about today in even if I have to go to the United Nations and I'll get a big applause, is if I start talking about climate change. Yeah, that's the flavor of the day in the world. But if we look back at the Maori culture and our culture, we have been giving importance to climate way, way, way back, thousands of years. Not just importance, climate for your culture and our culture, we give this the importance of God. We pray climate. We just don't think it's important. I don't think there's any more importance to anything you can give by considering that as your spiritual God. So things like that I can go on and on, spend a whole day talking about Maori and our ancient indigenous cultures from India and from Tamil, but I know time is short, so I have to respect that. So the Tamil language, we spoke about a few things where the treaty has been translated into Tamil. Our Prime Minister, Honorable Narendra Modi, was in Port Moresby just last month, in the month of May. And there also we were all trying to find the confluence of the Indian culture with the Pacific culture, and specifically the Tamil culture. So I will, there is a very old treatise, which I think is one of the world's oldest literature on morality, on ethics, and secularism.
Kia ora, and my apologies, I couldn't see our Labour MP, Venetia Walters, and Venetia, great to see you here and in support. Nō reira, apati hono tātou, hono rātou, kia rātou, apati hono tātou, hono rātou, te honga ore e tau nei. Tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa. But again, I think, yes, it's a hard time, but keep, as I said, keep the faith. So on that note, thank you to Papakura Marae hosting our Te Pai Oranga program here. And it's appropriate that it's here because the King is the patron of Te Pai Oranga. And what Te Pai Oranga means is that the paipai that is sitting here, when a whina comes through the door, that a whina comes in, he's in a state of tapu. And until the paipai hear what's troubling him, he will cross over and go into a state of noa. And that means that all the troubles that that person has been through, he or she has been through, will be supported by that group of people who will look at better innovative ways of dealing with the harm and the ways that person has gotten him or her into trouble. But also the most important part is the restoration back to the victim. And so we're in 23 locations across the country. This is one of our locations. Working with tangata whenua to intervene early in people's lives to give them a second chance and correct them on the right path to be more productive in their lives. So on that note, to our pai sitting on this side, Raveen, to you and the team, Gunnar-san from Rotorua, good to see you here representing your dad, who we go back a long, long way. Mr. Bakshi, for your time and your support over many years. Thank you and to you all out here, to our MPs from Parliament who have turned up here to support today. My apologies that I've gone on too long, but this will probably be the last time I get to speak to our Tamil community, given my retirement at the end of the year. But again, after 40 years, I'm certainly looking forward to going home, not switching the radio on at 6 o'clock in the morning and listening to a certain talkback show, and just, enjoying the peace and the calm. That's not going to be the case because my iwi are just as grumpy and all of that, and the expectations will be a lot much the same. So on that note, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa.
Waka Woli, you have given so many speeches. Today you're going to hear a wiretap.
that you may have never heard before. So, Luna, please do this.
Yeah. Beautiful. Come down and do other things. I won't tell you the stories about fishing because whilst they're funny, they're quite horrific as well. Just the way they fish. But you know, they would say to people, have you got a license? You know, what are you using? Are you using the wrong bait? Are you using a foul hook on your line? They were conservationists because they believed it was there. You only took enough for what you needed, and you didn't overindulge. So this is a joyous time for us, but it's also a sad time for Auckland. And I just want to acknowledge Michael Wood. And look, I know Michael, in your time as the Minister for Auckland, was a great thing. And Michael's done some great things, you know, and I just acknowledge you for all the work that you've done. And, you know, stay where you are because it's the leadership, people like yourselves who have the heart. And I've seen over the years, I've worked with political parties right across the board, as you know, Michael. And I've seen people come and go. I've been in Malsburg Street for the last 20 years, so I've seen politicians come and go. I've heard everything that goes with that, but I also remember people who matter most.
God.
You know, and Michael is one of those people that I've seen, no matter whether the audience is small or large, he's there to listen. You know, and that's the thing that I remember all the time when I'm travelling around the country. And as I said to the Commissioner last night, despite the hard week that we've had here in Auckland, and you know, being on the phone, talking to the victims of the horrific shooting, looking at the young Maori boy whose life is certainly not unfamiliar to me in terms of that tragic path that young boy has undertaken. But yesterday was a special event for me in Wellington as well. I handed out citation awards to many of our staff who worked in the tragic shooting in 15th March 2019. And so yesterday I handed out their citations as well as their ribbons. And these are the ribbons that signify that event of the day. The green ribbon here is the ribbon that we handed out to our staff who worked hard during that horrific time of March 15th. The green symbolises the nature and life which the Islam community, and you would know better than me, see the colour green as that symbol of peace. And of course the two black stripes on that ribbon symbolise the two mosques, both Dean's Ave and Linwood Mosque, around where those shootings took place. And over 250 odd people that were in the mosque at that time, and 130 odd plus who were injured, plus the 51 who lost their lives tragically. This week's event on the construction site in Auckland took a lot of our people back to that time. And so yesterday was a special time about remembering the events in Christchurch, but also now thinking of the victim families inside of the shooting that took place here in Auckland. So we've got a lot of questions to answer, a lot of work to do, and in the cold hard life of the day, the most important thing is the grieving, the mourning, the weeping of those victim families, you know, who come from not far from here. And our staff are supporting those families as we speak. Now, if you think about the safety in this country and think about the way that our first line responders, the emergency responders took to that event, you know, police, St John's, the fire service. New Zealand police were on that site within 11 minutes. You know, and 11 minutes they took to avert other victims being fatally injured in that event. You know, and it's sad that we lost 2 people, and also 2 of our police officers were fortunate, you know, that one is recovering in the hospital, the other one is recovering at home. But they could have easily been taken out by the shooter. And also, the other victim inside of that is the shooter's family. They were absolutely devastated when we visited them. You know, to know that this is how this boy's life, a 24-year-old, has ended up, with all the support services that were given to him. But again, as I say, that boy's story is certainly not unfamiliar to me in the 40 years that I've been in police. So again, I say to you, you know, acknowledge the New Zealand police for the way they responded to that event yesterday, 11 minutes in there which saved lives. If I think about March 15, it was sad that we lost 51 lives, but we apprehended that offender within 18 minutes. You know, from Linwood Mosque, after he left Linwood, we apprehended him 3 minutes later. You know, and that, in terms of when you look at international jurisdictions and the things that have happened overseas, you know, I acknowledge our staff, which I had the opportunity to do yesterday. So I just wanted to say to you, keep the faith, to keep the peace. You know, absolutely have the trust and confidence in the New Zealand Police, despite the issues that are going on at the moment across Tāmaki Makaurau, across the ram raids, right across the country. Those young people, the majority of them are only 13 years of age. They need the support. How do we provide the best interventions? And we've worked with the government to put, you know, the best interventions that we have had into a lot of the retail outlets. A lot of money has gone into that. And so, you know, I acknowledge the support that we've had thus far. I've met with all the Indian business associations across Auckland to talk about other things that we could do. You know, one of the things that struck me about the Indian Business Association, when we talked about the victims of retail crime, what they said to me is, Wally, we can put fog cannons into our place, we can reinforce our windows, but how do we stop people? How do we stop people before they even come in the door? How do we think about prevention? You know, I was quite taken back by that, despite the fact that people are going through this hard time. They were thinking, how do we support the community? How do we get out there knowing that people are in crisis? And we've been through some horrific events over the last 5 years. From 2019, from Christchurch, from COVID, you know, right through 2020, lockdown 2021, the occupation of Parliament, and then Whakaari White Island at the end of 2019. So all of these events have weighed heavily on our nation. And, you know, we've been through some hard times, and the only way that we can recover is through unity, through understanding, staying together, working together. As I said, at this time of matariki, you know, thinking about prosperity for our young ones going forward, thinking about the abundance of what we can provide for each other, and thinking about the togetherness. So my apologies that I can't be here for most of the morning with you, but I have to go and meet with some of our staff today from a certain community who have been victimised as a result of this week's events. But I'm sure that you will have a great time with the support and the manaakitanga that our mana whenua here, tangata whenua of this beautiful marae will host you throughout the day. I'm proud of Papakura Marae because they run, when we looked at how do we shift the dial inside of the criminal justice system. Yes, go hard on those who deserve to be put inside of prison, and at that point in their lives they don't want to do anything else but cause harm and pain to our community. But for those who want to be given a second chance, how do we intervene early? As I said to you, most of those young kids that are causing those raids are between the ages of 13 and 17. We've even had an 8-year-old follow the leaders into a toy shop and take toys. What does that say to you? You know, so it's a sad state of affairs.
Whakaputa puti ki tua, puti ki te whai au, ki te ao maranga, ati he Maori ora. I te kokoma, i te kokoma. Ko te hautapu e te ki te kainga matari ki wakia. Tōpore rea koe tapa. Tapa ko nua tukua ki raro. Hei au e. Hui. Nōreira, e te pai tapu, tēnei ki mihi atu ki a koutou i tō mihi whakatau ki a mātou te roku nei nā, ko te hāpuri temo, ke te hari koe tua ke nei mui a koutou, ki te mihi, ki te tangi, ki te maumaharatanga ngā mate o tātou, ko tēnā rohe, ko tēnā rohe. Mai te taupokoro toke rau kai atu ki murumiki. Nō re ngā mate, haere atu rā. Hoki atu ki a tātou katoa ngā kanohi ora, kei te mihi atu ki o koutou, ko tai mai nei, rangi te marumaru o tēnei, whare a tāhua, ki te tahi e te tahi, ki te whitiwhiti kōrero i runga i te kaupapa nei, ki te kimi haere te rongoa o tātou katoa. Nō reira e tō tātou waha kōrero e taramatira e wain a kānui te mihi atu ki a koe te whakautu ki a rātou te pai tapu i tēnā taha. Nō reira hoki atu ki a koe te minita mai ko kānui te mihi aroha ki a koe i te wā taumaha mau me tō whānau hoki ke tahari ko ki te koe ki wainui a tātou i tēnei ata. Nō reira te tiamana e Ravine, mō tō mahi te kai whakahaere o tēnei, ui kei te mihi atu ki a koe, piki te ora, piki te kaha, piki te mātauranga i te huarahi Maori, me te huarahi Tamil, i te hohonutanga ki a tata katoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kia ora tata katoa. And that little haka that I just did, ata koko mai te koko ma. Ko te hautapu e ri te ki te kai o matariki. So, manawatia a matariki. Which means that hautapu is about filling your basket, filling your cup, feeding the stars of matariki. And so when our people did that haka, and it was performed by the 23part2 Maori battalion when they went to the Second World War. And of course all they could think about was, how do they replenish their soul, how do they keep themselves, sustain themselves with their tikanga, with their culture. And of course, as you would have seen pictures and history of our 23part2 Māori battalion, who were one of the most fierce battalions that went to that Second World War. And they talked about the seasons, they talked about matariki, always remembering how do we fill our cup. And we fill our cup by going back to our grassroots, thinking about our culture and what that means to us. And of course, we're all here because, being part of that same tikanga, being part of the same community, wanting to learn, wanting to share, wanting to care. And matariki is about that time. The togetherness, the abundance, the prosperity. That's why we're here together. And of course, I'm here because Ravine forced me to be here. But I'm also here, much like Michael was about, the fact that when Ravine discussed the Tamil community wanting to come closer to the Māori community, I said, okay, well look, I'll open my marae. I'm the chair of my marae in Rotorua, have been for the last 35 plus years. And so when he asked if he could come to Rotorua, I said, well, come to my marae. And we had a great time there. There was, as Ravine says, 300 plus people there. And we shared stories wide and far. We laughed together, we cried together. They saw people on my marae that come from an Indian background. As you've heard me tell the story many times before of the Singhs and the Khans who are part of my family. And so it was only appropriate that if we were to kick off, come to our place where you'll see that integration of cultures and how the Singhs and the Khans happen to come to my place. And now that's certainly grown inside of our place. But it's also, matariki is also a special time when we think of one of the stars, which is Pōhutukawa. And Pōhutukawa remembers those who have passed on. So we say, tohu matariki, te hunga mate ki te hunga mate. Tohu matariki, te hunga ora ki te hunga ora, tihei matariki. So matariki remembers those who have passed on, gone beyond the veil. Matariki also remembers the presence that we have here in the present and how we are going to make the future intergenerational ahead of us, those generations ahead of us, how we are going to look after their future. And of course, one of the most important things is how do we build that relationship amongst us? How do we as a diverse nation come together and learn from each other rather than isolate ourselves from each other? How do we get that diversity of thought, appreciating the richness of culture that have come to this country and how we can see it? And of course, we do it through food, we do it through toil, we do it through bringing together occasions like this. And of course, that's, again, is part of nothing. Sharing food, sharing a feast together. I still remember growing up in my area. I've been in New Zealand for 40 years now, and I'm due to retire at the end of this year. But I have to say that one of the most important things in my time, and I've done everything in police, from the cradle, seen everything from the cradle to the grave, done everything,
been a detective, been an investigator, been part of sleeping in the bush, chasing down criminals, growing cannabis in the largest forest in the North Island, international crime, working with other jurisdictions, helping to set up the cultural unit in Western Australia, travelling right through the northwest, looking at the Aboriginal people, working with the First Nations people in Canada, the Canadian Indians, and just appreciating, the hardships that minority cultures go through. And so again, when I talk about the relationships in the New Zealand police, I said to the Commissioner last night, yes, it is difficult waking up at 4:30 this morning, but guess what? My 2 grandchildren are waking up at 4:30 this morning, and they're going to their kohanga reo in Nairo to celebrate Hautau, celebrate feeding the stars, whangaia ngā whetu, whangaia te hautapu o Matariki. So they feed the stars, and those 2 little babies got up, and I picked them up out of our bed last night because their parents were getting everything ready, so they came and stayed. They come to our house every weekend. So picked the 2 little tykes up this morning, bleary-eyed, crying, Papa, why do you have to get up at this time in the morning? And when we teach them from a baby the right things to do, take them to their kohanga reo this morning, their language nest, and sharing the feast that they're having this morning. And it's about remembering all of those who have struggled, who have had the scars on their back, who have sacrificed a lot to make our journey a lot easier. And if I think back to all those years ago, my grandmother planting corn, planting strawberries, doing all of those things, picking watercress, picking puha, all of those things, my grandfather going hunting in the bush, eeling, catching pigs, all of that stuff. That was the pack and save of those days, and they lived by the seasons. And again, Matariki talks to us about how we preserve our environment, how we look after. Some people think Maori are not conservationists, but when it comes, I know my dad, when he was a keen fisherman on the lakes in Rotorua and in the rivers, and if anybody came along and never had a license, or tried to foul hook, a lot of people would...
Mai e runga, tūtawa mai e raro, tūtawa mai e roto, tūtawa mai e waho. Kia tau ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ongi e, hui e, tai e. Tui e te rangi e tūnei, tui e te pāpa e tā koto, tui a rātou kua wehi he te po. Haere, haere, haere. E te honga ora, e te hau kaina. E te kingi tuheitia po tātou, te whirawhiro, te tuawhetu, te nako. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou kātou. Ko ki tāpapa te maunga, te aunga, te awa, te rere ana ki te waitemata. E ori aho, te ingarangi, ko te rana, e wiwi hoki. Ko Michael Wood, tōku ingoa, e Tamaki Makaurau, tōku kāinga. Ko Julie Ferry, tōku hua rangatira, tōku toru aku taitama. Ko aho te Rupu Reipa, Nima Paranata, Mount Roscoe. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou kātou. Kia ora koutou katoa whanakam. And can I just say how wonderful it is to be here, and can I thank our hosts for your warm embrace of the kōrero that is going to unfold today, and for your warm and generous welcome to all of us who are here today to this very, very beautiful marae that I know is very special to you. There are 2 reasons why it was very important for me to be here today. The first is that for me and for the government, this kind of kōrero and mahi, this is how we build a strong and cohesive Aotearoa New Zealand. We recognise that we are a treaty-based country, that our relationship with one another comes from that treaty, and that for all of us, whether we are mana whenua, whether perhaps like my family have been here for 6 or 7 generations, or perhaps you've just arrived here in the last 20 years, that we do it through relationship and dialogue, and that it is a treaty that gives us the basis to do that respectfully. And I think that through that, there is an opportunity for us in this country to build the most peaceful, cohesive and inclusive community in the whole world. And I think it is through these kinds of dialogues that we have the opportunity to build the relationships that make that possible. And so I just thank and acknowledge both parties who are here, mana whenua and our panel community, for having the courage and the willingness to be a part of that dialogue. And the second reason why it is particularly important for me to be here is that our panel community here in Aotearoa, New Zealand is particularly special and important for me. They have a very strong presence in my community of Puki Tāpata, Mount Roskill. Vai and the Auckland Tamil Association have their headquarters based in my community of Mount Roskill. They have been friends for me for many, many years. They have been there for me in the smooth sailing times and in the choppy waters that we sometimes encounter in this world of politics as well. And I can tell you that this is a warm-hearted, kind community that wants to make its contribution here in New Zealand. And I think you can see that from the turnout from all over our country. You're here willing to learn, listen and contribute. So the time that I have here this morning, I look forward to the dialogue, and again I just thank and acknowledge both parties for being here, because I think this is how we build a beautiful country for ourselves, our children, our moko and everyone who lives here. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Tūtera.
Tēnā mai ngā iwi, oe tātou tātou e. Tēnā mai ngā iwi, tātou tātou e. Whai a te maramatanga, me te aroha. Ngā iwi, ki apata i, ki apata i rā. Tātou tātou e, tātou tātou, huri hia hia wei. Kia ora.
Mai i runga, tūtawa mai i raro, tūtawa mai i roto, tūtawa mai i waho. Kia tau ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ongi e, hui e, taiki. Tui e te rangi e tūnei, tui e te pāpa e tā poto, tui a rātou kua wehi he te po. Haere, haere, haere. E te honga ora, e te hau kāinga, e te kini tūheitia po tātou, te whirawhiro, te tuawhetu, te nāko. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kuki tāpapa te maunga, te aunga, te awa, te rere ana ki te waitemata. E ori aho te ingarangi, ko te rana, e wiwi hoki. Ko Michael Wood, tōku ingoa, ke Tamaki Makaurau, tōku kāinga. Ko Julie Ferry, tōku hoa rangatira, tōku toru aku taitama. Ko aho te Rupu Reipa, Nima Parenata, Mount Roskill. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora koutou katoa whanakam. And can I just say how wonderful it is to be here, and can I thank our hosts for your warm embrace of the kōrero that is going to unfold today, and for your warm and generous welcome to all of us who are here today to this very, very beautiful marae that I know is very special to you. There are two reasons why it was very important for me to be here today. The first is that for me and for the government, this kind of kōrero and mahi, this is how we build a strong and cohesive Aotearoa New Zealand. We recognise that we are a treaty-based country, that our relationship with one another comes from that treaty, and that for all of us, whether we are mana whenua, whether perhaps like my family you've been here for 6 or 7 generations, or perhaps you've just arrived here in the last 20 years, that we do it through relationship and dialogue, and that it is a treaty that gives us the basis to do that respectfully. And I think that through that there is an opportunity for us in this country to build the most peaceful, cohesive and inclusive community in the whole world. And I think it is through these kinds of dialogues that we have the opportunity to build the relationships that make that possible. And so I just thank and acknowledge both parties who are here, mana whenua and our panel community, for having the courage and the willingness to be a part of that dialogue. And the second reason why it is particularly important for me to be here is that our panel community here in Aotearoa, New Zealand is particularly special and important for me. They have a very strong presence in my community of Puki Tāpata, Mount Roskill. Vi and the Auckland Tamil Association have their headquarters based in my community of Mount Roskill. They have been friends for me for many, many years. They have been there for me in the smooth sailing times and in the choppy waters that we sometimes encounter in this world of politics as well. And I can tell you that this is a warm-hearted, kind community that wants to make its contribution here in New Zealand. And I think you can see that from the turnout from all over our country. You're here willing to learn, listen and contribute. So the time that I have here this morning, I look forward to the dialogue, and again I just thank and acknowledge both parties for being here, because I think this is how we build a beautiful country for ourselves, our children, our moko and everyone who lives here. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou koutou. Tūtera.
Tēnā mai ngā iwi, oe tātou tātou e. Tēnā mai ngā iwi, tātou tātou e. Whai a te maramatanga, me te aroha. Ngā iwi, ki apata i, ki apata i rā. Tātou tātou e, tātou tātou. Huri ia ia wehi. Kia ora.
To our community from Auckland, Michael Wood, to say a few words. Thank you. Thank you. Norera, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tātua. Now, I'd like to conclude from the first Maori Tamil Week. What happened from after the first Maori Tamil Week? What happened? We launched the first Maori Tamil coin, which will be given to you all later today during the day. The first Maori Tamil coin was launched through the collaboration with the Trio Language Maori Commission. We managed to secure the first Trio Maori language classes in Wellington. So we got 20 over people taking weekly classes on Sunday in Wellington, and that is going to be nationwide. We managed to succeed there. The third thing, we translated the 333 of Waitangi in Tamil. That third thing we did, okay? We translated the document in Tamil and we distributed nationwide. The fourth thing we did, the fourth outcome of the first Maori Tamil Week is translating 101 whakatoki into Tamil. So this is what our outcomes from the first Maori Tamil Week and from the first conference. We had our first conference in Wellington in November. So that brought a lot of strength, a lot of mana to bring all our Tamil community. Tamil communities, we are working on a research at this moment, and we are looking at about 20,000 people overall throughout New Zealand, but the research work is there. It is an ongoing process. And the fifth thing is the Tamil bell. How many of you know there's a Tamil bell sitting at Te Papa Museum? Okay? Few hundred years ago, the bell came to New Zealand. How the bell got in here, we don't know. But the Tangata Whenua, the Maori people, was using that bell for their cooking. Today, that bell is preserved at the Wellington Te Papa Museum. So these are the fundamental significance. The Tamilians throughout the world have come together And Tamil is the oldest language in the world. If you Google today, it will say Tamil is the oldest language of the world. So proud of this whanau, and I want to wish all of you best of luck for today's event. We have lined up a number of sessions today with a number of speakers from everywhere. We also have one lovely youth speaker from Napier. Lena is here with us today from the Trio Language Maori Commission. We have Mackerel Carol, and many others are joining us throughout the day for a wonderful session. So my humble request to all of you, sit back, relax, enjoy the evening, enjoy the day, and create the fellowship. End of the day, it is all about aroha. May I invite Hanania and Dipi to start. We want to sing a waiata, te aroha. And Kira, to all my whanau, a homeland that I call. I've been 18 years in this country, and I'm so proud of this nation and being part of this whanau. And that has led me today, together with my team and fellow members of Aotearoa New Zealand Federation of Tamil Sangam, to host, to have this event nationwide. And today is our second Maori Tamil Hui, which is in collaboration of Auckland Tamil Association through our brother, Vice President of Aotearoa New Zealand Tamil Federation, and also the President of Auckland Tamil Society. I would acknowledge him for getting in touch with Papakura Marae to host today's event. And I would like to acknowledge Papakura Marae for open-heartedly inviting us here, having us here today for this wonderful occasion. End of the day, it's only one thing. And this is my first time in a marae. I'm seeing a young gentleman is having his coreo. So it is awesome to see young people stepping up and doing all the relevant protocols. And that is the vision of Aotearoa New Zealand Federation of Tamil Sangam, to see our mokopunas rising up to carry on what legacy that we have left behind. Now, as we embark into the second Maori Tamil Hui, I am proud to say, from the first Maori Tamil Hui, where we had it in Rotorua through our Kamakua Bali Homa at Rongotaha Marae, we had about 350 people attended that event, and believe me, it was a joyful event until Wali had tears and saying, I couldn't believe this is going to happen. But ladies and gentlemen, my fellow brothers and sisters, it's happening. This Maori Tamil Hui is going to be a significant connection, a bonding that we are creating between the Tamils and the Maori community here. It is going to lead up, inspire the other ethnic communities that resides in this country. Hey, why not we join this and we do it together? Alright? Now, we set the precedence. The Tamil community is setting a precedence with the Tangata Whenua, creating the bonding, creating the relationship. Whana whakata whanatanga. Alright? That's what all about. Alright? Aroha, kote menui, kote aroha. End of the day, it's all about aroha. And since 18 years in this country, I love one Maori proverb. Tui tui tagata, tui tui korowa. It takes great strength and patience to weave a korowai cloth. It is just like weaving and building a strong nation that we all want to be part of this country. So it is not an easy journey. Bringing people together and asking them to be there at 8:30 is not an easy journey. But I am so proud to see all my fellow members are all present here on time. Thank you so much for your commitment, for your dedication to see the growth of our community and the aspirations that we all come together to take it for the best unity that we want to shine in this country.
Nō reira katua. Anei anō he mihi atu ki ngā rangatira, I mōhio ana au I nānei, ko wai. Ko tēnei te mihi ki a koutou nei rangatira, ki o koutou nei mahi mo te rā, kaupapa mo te rā hoki. Nō reira, he mihi poto, he mihi taunaki tēnei, Kia koutou, anei a papakura marae hei tuara mo koutou I tō wai konei. No reire te whare, mihi mai, tuituia mai a tātou I te rangi nei. Manaki te enei warawai tapu, enei manuhiri, mō ngā mahi kei te harama. No reira, mihi ana kia tātou katoa, kia koe e te matua, no I whakahuki I ngā kōrero. Anei a hau e tūwhakararo I raro I a koe, me tōku rangatahitanga me ki, no reira e mihi ana kia koe, kia koutou katoa hoki, no reira, kua mutu tēnei taha mō te whai kōrero, no reira pai ki te hariru, te katoa, pai ki te haramai mo te hariru, muri I tērā I rongo au he ceremony me ki, pirangi e koutou ki te mahia, o he kōrero anō, me he kai kōrero anō, no reira, muri te hongi me ki, kei a koutou te wā, hei kōrero, hei mahia I tērā mai. No reira, hara mai mo tērā.
Te katoa o tēnei mua I nei?
Te katoa me pirangi anō.
Me I nei.
No reira, e te manuhiri, reira te mihi mai aha, papakura mai kia koutou katoa. Piti hono tātai hono te hungo mati ki te hungo mati. Piti hono tātai hono te hungo ora ki te hungo ora. A tēnā koutou, a tēnā rā tātou katoa. Kāhi ki ora. Tātou nei te hungo ro, Hawaii ki nui o Hawaii ki roa, Hawaii ki pāmāma. Ka huri ki ngā manuhiri tuarangi kua tae mai, e ngā rahi o te ope manuhiri kua tae mai, nau mai, piki mai, whakatau mai. Nau mai, piki mai, whakatau mai, ki roto I tēnei whare o te ngira, o tira ki te marae o papakura, I waho rā, nau mai, hara mai, nau mai. Ka mihi au ki o koutou nei maunga, ki o koutou nei awa, ki o koutou nei whakapapa katoa ko mauria mai e koutou, ke waingunui a tātou I te rā nei, nā reira kātika ka mihatu. Ka mihatu kia koe, Vanessa, nau I whakatūwhera I te ara wairoi e tō koutou nei, painga mai, kuhunga mai, ki roto I tēnei whare no reira kātika ka mihatu. Ka mihatu kia koe te rangatiri I te wairongo I tō waire ki waho rā, I hoki o huku mahara ki oku tūpuna no te taitoke rau. E mihi atu nei I runga I tērā wairea. No reira, e mihi ana. Nā mātou o papakura marae te honore nui ki te tūtaki, ki te manaki, ki te whakahonohono, kia koutou, ngā tangata o Tamil, o iwi ke atu. Mō mātou, he hono re nui, ki te whakahono ki te tūtaki, ki te mahi tahi mo te aha, mo te mahi hei hāpai i ngā hāpuri i ngā tangata i wainga nui i raro i o tātou nei reke ho. No reira, e hara tēnei he tū whakakuku me roa engari he mihi popo, he tū whakaroro, he mihi aroha, he mihi whakatau hoki i a koutou katoa. I tō koutou nei tainga mai, aha koa no hea, ko tātou te hunga tangata tērā hononga, aha koa no iniana, aha koa no utereni nei, ko tērā tātou te hungora, aha koa te aha, e maua nei rā āwhotanga o te pauri o te hari, e rā momo katoa. Nō reira, e ngā manuhiri, e oku mātua, e oku kaumātua kuia, nei rā tēnei iti o te a ki tau wai o koe tuku mihi, e tuku aroha atu kia tātou katoa i te ata nei. Ka whakamutu o ki kōrero i ko rā, ko te mea nui, ko te aroha, ko te tuku aroha kia tātou katoa i te ata nei. Nō reira, a tēnā koutou, a tēnā koutou, a tēnā rā tātou katoa. Nei te hungoro Hawaii nui o Hawaii roa Hawaii pāmama. Ka huri ki ngā manuhiri tuarangi kua tae mai, e ngā rahi o te ope manuhiri kua tae mai, nau mai, piki mai, whakatau mai. Nau mai, piki mai, whakatau mai ki roto i tēnei whare o te ngira, o tira ki te marae o Papakura, i waho rā, nau mai, hara mai, nau mai. Ka mihi au ki o koutou nei maunga, ki o koutou nei awa, ki o koutou nei whakapapa katoa ko mauria mai e koutou, ke wainganui a tātou i te rā nei, nā reira kātika ka mihi atu. Ka mihi atu kia koe, Vanessa, nau i whakatūwhera i te ara wairo i a tō koutou nei, painga mai, kuhunga mai, ki roto i tēnei whare nā reira kātika ka mihi atu. Ka mihi atu kia koe te rangatiri i te wairongo i tō waire ki waho rā, i hoki o kumahara ki oku tūpuna no te tai toke rau. E mihi atu nei i runga i tērā wairea. No reira, e mihi ana, e mihi ana, e mihi ana. Nā mātou o Papakura marae te honore nui ki te tūtaki, ki te manaaki, ki te whakahonohono, kia koutou, ngā tangata o Tamil, o iwi ke atu. Mō mātou, he honore nui, ki te whakahonohono, ki te tūtaki, ki te mahi tahi mo te aha, mo te mahi hei hāpai i ngā hāpuri i ngā tangata i wainga nui i raro i o tātou nei reke ho. No reira, e hara tēnei he tū whakakuku me roa engari, he mihi popo, he tū whakaroro, he mihi aroha, he mihi whakatau hoki i a koutou katoa. I tō koutou nei tainga mai, aha koa no hea, ko tātou te hunga tangata tērā hononga, aha koa no iniana, aha koa no utereni nei, ko tērā tātou te hungora, aha koa te aha, e maua nei rā āwhotanga o te pauri o te hari, e rā momo katoa. Nō reira, e ngā manuhiri, e oku mātua, e oku kaumātua kuia, nei rā tēnei iti o te a ki tau wai o koe tuku mihi, e tuku aroha atu kia tātou katoa i te ata nei. Ka whakamutu o ki kōrero i ko rā, ko te mea nui, ko te aroha, ko te tuku aroha kia tātou katoa i te ata nei. Nō reira, a tēnā koutou, a tēnā koutou, a tēnā rā tātou Karanga ke rangi e tūhui honei, karanga ke papa e tapu honei. Kia rarau te tapu ai a tāngata. Kuta te atua, te whiringa,
whakaro whai ki ngā tāngata kato āne e te atu e nā kia au ki roto ki tēnā o tātou. O te tangi e tau wairu e tapu, te atinga, i tōru i ngā tuku i roto i tēnei karakia. Tēnā.
Karanga ke rangi e tūhui honei, karanga ke papa e tapu honei. Kia rarau te tapu ai a tāngata.
Karanga maira e te whare tīpuna e. Karanga mai ki ngā iwi take take e ke mai nei e. Karanga mai, karanga mai, karanga mai e.
To respond to the question, not so much a shock, more gave rise to great interest and a real thirst for relationship development and knowledge procurement and looking for the way in which we can weave those things together with our mātauranga Māori, matters of te ao Māoris.
Thank you, Yeah, I'm just thinking back to that time, and it also was a period for our people where we were undergoing tremendous change. So, you know, we'd had our first interactions with the Pākehā culture. Europeans had come. There was a lot of stress on our people to sell land, and a lot of our natural resources were being overtaken. But as Regan touched on,